Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure for me to be with one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time, Tyson Kid. Tyson, thank you very much.
No, thank you. I don't think I deserve that introduction, but I appreciate it. You and I have we've been messaging a lot, back and forth, for years now.
I've been annoying you with a lot of wrestling questions.
I remember you messaging me, asking me questions, and then you said some stuff to me, and I was like, oh, okay, this guy has a pretty good knowledge of wrestling from an outsider's point of view of not doing it, which is, you know, it's always going to be a little different probably than my point of view of doing this for so long. But I was like, okay, and then we started having like really good conversations. Yeah.
Especially, I think you are an old school guy as well, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about old wrestling and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, man, you send me stuff all the time, and like sometimes I do my best to watch it, and I will. Sometimes I like forget.
Yes.
Because you send me lots of clips and lots of matches from different places. That's really cool, or like hidden gems matches. You know, you're always on top of finding funny matches for me to watch.
I think it's
like Hakushi and Owen, right? You sent
that. I think. It was
like Brett versus
a lot of Brett hidden gems.
A lot of Brett hidden gem matches. And
one match that I really appreciated that you recommended was the Pat Tanaka and the 123 Kid Superstar.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Man, Pat Tanaka, he's awesome, and I got a tag with him in New Japan, my first tour, and I can't say enough good things about him. He's awesome.
The team and the Orient Express, they were pretty awesome.
Yeah, if you watch them back at that time, unbelievable. He was taking all types of different bumps and stuff that nobody was really doing at that time. Pat was pretty ahead of his time.
They were in Stampede, I guess, right?
Yeah, bad. What was their name? I don't know. I don't know if Pat was, but his partner might have been, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm not the best with it's funny. You think I'd have a better Stampede? Yeah, but my Stampede wrestling history is sometimes okay and sometimes not so great.
Speaking of Stampede, it always gets me. We just have the clips of those awesome matches. Only the 2 minutes clips.
Oh, I know.
And it seems.
And then I don't know if they. You know what? I take that back. I think a lot of those full matches exist.
Oh, really?
I think so. Ross Hart was he was the one who would edit the shows.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's the one who would try to fit, like, I don't know how long the shows would happen on a Friday night at the Pavilion, maybe.
I think around 40 to 50 minutes.
Yeah, but maybe the actual show is maybe like 2 or 3 hours.
Oh yeah,
definitely. And then edit it to that, you know. So Ross would go after the show and edit it that night.
Right.
And then get it to the TV station Saturday morning, because it would air in the afternoon.
What was the idea to edit it out? Just to encourage fans to attend the match?
Yeah, and that you would see like the best parts of the match. Or I don't know about the best parts, because I think a lot of those matches were really good from beginning to end. But yeah, I think to encourage you to come there live and to get as many of the guys on as possible, because the matches were longer. So like if you showed the entire match in that hour-long TV show, you'd see like 3 matches or 2 matches. You know what I mean?
So you need to cover all the rest.
Yeah, I think that was a way to do that. So when Stu passed away, I believe Ross and Bruce, probably both, they got the archives of the Stampede stuff. Now I believe it's all like pre-edited stuff. Like I used to see it in the basement all the time. It's like reels, like you see at like a movie theater of like
all them. I think there were 2 eras. On the late 80s, the mid 80s with Owen and Pillman. They used to show the full matches, but I think back on the 70s, late 80s, that was the editing out.
Yep.
It's funny, speaking of old school wrestling, I think for us fans, I need to have that balance. I cannot watch classic wrestling all the time. And I cannot watch modern wrestling all the time. If you have that balance, it will encourage me to to not get away from wrestling or get.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I think it's so funny. So my version of that balance, I think, has become that I watch a lot of UFC.
Oh yes.
I watch a lot of UFC, and then like people message me all the. I mean, you'll send me matches, but people ask me all the time like what I think of this guy or this company, and I'm like, man, honestly, and I'm not trying to sound like that, but if it's not in WWE, like there's a lot I don't know about because I'm just so engulfed in what we do here and what I do here, and I've been here now for 12 years.
Wow.
That it's just consumed me. Right. And so like I said, my little escape is I'm a big like basketball fan.
Okay.
I like American football. I like hockey. I'll watch a lot of basketball and then UFC. Like those are my outlets.
But I can see UFC is your top favorite.
Yeah, that's
the way you tweet about.
Yeah, that's my favorite sport.
Yeah. Do you think there are similarity between MMA and wrestling?
Tons. Yeah, they're like cousins. They're related. There's a relation there for sure. I think. In a lot of aspects, a lot of the showmanship and a lot of even the hype of the fights is very. The best fights with the best hype always feels like pro wrestling done at its best.
I know.
And then the
build up. And
yes, of course.
Bigger than life character.
Yeah, and then the only difference is then they're going in there to try to knock the guy out for real.
Right.
That's the only difference is then when the bell rings.
Yes, I know it. I got you.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing as well is a lot of wrestling fans, they used to watch wrestling and they turned into UFC fans. I noticed that. When I tell him, do you watch wrestling? I say, I used to watch it. Now I am a UFC.
Yeah. And I think it is because they are so similar up to a point, and then I don't know if. Just like your dad ruined wrestling for you today. I don't know if that's.
It's a funny story. I think we need to tell it.
Yeah. I don't know if that's when people decide that they want to get out of it. I don't know. I have 3 theories. So there's like, because almost anybody that I've come across in my life, they've watched pro wrestling at some point in their life.
Yes, absolutely.
Now the 3 different versions that I've come across are the people who watch it when they're kids with maybe their grandparent,
right?
This
is my case.
Yeah, or their parents.
Yep.
And then after that they grow out of it and they never watch again.
Yep.
Those are one. Another one is they always start when they're young, usually.
Right.
Number 2 is the same setup. Then maybe when they got a little older, like 12 years old, 13, they got away from wrestling.
Right.
And then they came back in.
The Attitude Era.
Yeah, then they came back in at a little older.
Right.
And then there's the people like you, like myself, like Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, that like we were fans.
Yeah.
And we never grew out of it.
Right.
And we're still fans today.
Yeah. I think it's part of our life.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I don't remember the last time that like wrestling wasn't a part of my life.
Yes.
I mean,
starting as a fan.
Yeah, and I mean, then
he was around the wrestling like.
Then I've been involved in it. I've been involved in it for 24 years now. Right. So I'm 39. So more than half my life, I've been involved in it. I was a fan. I've told this story before. I was a wrestling fan. Okay, so my cousin showed me wrestling, and in my mind, I don't know if this is the match, but in my mind, I can remember like the Killer Bees and Demolition.
Oh, so that should be around 87 or something.
Yeah.
How old was you back then?
I'd be 6 or 7.
Okay.
And then my cousin, he's a couple years older than me. He showed me that. Then the problem was I went home and then I tried to wrestle with my sisters. They're both younger than me. And my mom was not happy with it at all. So then,
did you give her that Jim Brunzell high drop kick?
No, I couldn't even do that at the peak of my career. And then, so then my mom said no more. So now I wasn't allowed to watch wrestling, and it was a different time than now. Now there's the internet and there's like cable box is different. It's so much easier to find it. At the time, it just was like a TV guide, and I couldn't always find it.
But it was more precious when you finally find it.
Oh yeah.
That was something.
Like later on in my life, I remember discovering like WCW Saturday Night once, and I was like, "What is this?" Yeah. I had no clue what it was. But then I became friends with Teddy Hart in school, and he convinced me to come to his house, and then everything was just wrestling, and then like
When was that?
1990.
Okay.
So I was 10 years old, and then like I don't know.
So you started, both of you, to watch it together? Or?
He was already way into it, so now he's explaining a lot of things to me, and he had a funny knowledge of certain things, like when Jerry Lawler debuted, and then he attacked Brett at King of the Ring. I mean, unless he was just lying and it turned out to be right, he's like, oh, this guy's like won a title like 10 times in Memphis, and like he was right. Yeah, he was right.
So you knew about Memphis?
Yeah, like I don't know who. Maybe somebody must have told him that.
Right.
Somebody, his mom, or somebody explained, oh, this is this wrestler from a different place. But if you're just a WWF fan at the time.
I didn't know it.
Yeah, like I remember not knowing who Ric Flair was.
Me as well. Yeah.
And when he came in and they had the title and they like blurted it out. I remember thinking like I thought, this is not real. What is this? Yeah. And then later on, I understand the history of Ric Flair, and I figure out the story and read his book about bringing the title over.
And how big was it? Speaking of it's interesting. I think so. Teddy, you, Harry, and Nettie. You were like the second generation of the Heart. I think Nettie, Harry, and you, we can get a sense of being from the Heart family, like the style of wrestling. And we can get that sense in the ring. But when it comes to the Teddy,
he's very unique.
You didn't believe it, like he's from the Heart family.
So I think. So like Owen was very much like high flying, especially earlier in his career. And obviously, he had a good ground game as well, and obviously good fundamentals, great wrestler.
I see you like in Owen more than Teddy, by the way.
Yeah, so I think Teddy took like the high flying part of it.
Yeah.
Because the funny thing is, Teddy's a very good technical wrestler too, but he wants to go out there and he wants to show his fans every night. He wants them to be as excited as they can be, so he just wants to go out there and entertain his fans the best way he can, which for him,
it's quite cool.
Yeah, which for him is wearing these flashy outfits, including in real life. What he wears in the ring is what he wears in real life. He walks around with a cat all day and does backflips and does crazy, like a beautiful shooting star press, like all types of crazy stuff.
Really good,
yeah, so talented.
The first footage that I saw of you, it was, I think, in Stampede around 1999.
Yep.
Maybe it was the third reincarnation of the promotion.
Yeah, it's funny that it is the third, yeah.
And it was you against Teddy. And I was thinking, like, you was only 3 years into the business.
Yeah,
and it was so good, like, you got it that quickly, the psychology part and the timing.
It's funny, Ross Hart, I can remember very vividly, we were in a van once and we were driving to a show. And on some of these shows, when I was younger, they would have me ref. And sometimes I would just go and sell 8x, like sometimes they'd let us wrestle, like me against Harry. But I just was so small and I was still really young. I'm talking about like 1997, 1998. Okay. So we're doing these Stampede wrestling shows, not on TV, just little small towns in Alberta.
Sounds like back in the third reincarnation.
So who was the roster?
Yeah.
We had a guy, Greg Pollock, Duke Durango, Red Thunder. We had Jason Anderson, who did a gimmick of being like Jim Neidhart's brother or cousin or something.
And was it shown on TV or?
No, these were just like spot. We called them spot. They're just spot shows, just like live events.
Right. But by the 1999, when we got the footage of you wrestling, was it shown on TV?
Yeah. That was they had a TV deal from, and it only lasted that year. It lasted from September till like June or July something, and it was cool to get some TV experience. And the way they did TV was a little bit different. It was like. One of the matches with Teddy that is on YouTube, it's a really dark setting. It's like really dark in this room.
Right.
And we had 10 minutes, but like 5 minutes is not going to air on TV and 5 minutes is going to air on TV.
Okay.
So Teddy and I, this is maybe a month into TV being back, so it started in September. This match is in October, and we figured out little tricks. Like, okay, in the first 5 minutes, we'll just do some chain wrestling, and it'll be kind of simple.
It's like wrestling in the commercial break.
Yeah, and then in the last 5 minutes, we'll do all the fireworks we can do. But they changed it on us that day. Like they aired the first 2 minutes and the last 3. Yeah. Okay. So we at one point we had the full version. I don't have it anymore. I don't even know if I can get it. But we did like a lot of really cool moves at the time, but just
no, I really remember
it didn't air.
Yeah, but even the Harry matches in the 2000, you guys were really good.
There's the one on there that the full thing airs. Harry's wearing a big hoodie.
Yeah, I think the farewell match of Harry or.
Oh, that one later on. Yeah. But there's one where he's a kid, just a kid. He in 2000. So Harry's like 14 in the match.
Oh. Really?
Yeah, on TV, and it was like. British Bulldog, they show he's there, Davey's there that day.
What would you say that made you so natural, like get it that quickly?
I don't know. I think a lot of reps, just spending a lot of time. Like we would wrestle in all of our free time. We would go to, so Teddy lived in a gym. And we would go downstairs and they had amateur wrestling mats and a crash pad. Right. And we would go down there and we would just like practice all day. And then we'd
How would you practice it, like copying some of the matches you are seeing?
Yes, 100%. We'd watch a match and we would write it down and we would go do it.
What were some of the matches that you
I remember us trying to practice like Brett and Davey from Wembley, like Brett and Razor Ramon from like King of the Ring, 93. And then it turned into us practicing moves, like one, and the one that really this is what really took Teddy to that different level. So we didn't really. Well, no. So I take that back. We watched WWF pay-per-views. We'd go to this place and watch them. Then like we heard like Hulk Hogan turned heel, and this fan he would send Harry tapes all the time. So now Harry just moved up to Calgary in 1996, the summer. So this guy mailed the tape to Stu's, and like he'd always write like a little message on it, like it was like WCW, Bash at the Beach '96, and then he wrote like Hulk Hogan, no more Mr. Nice Guy, something like that. It always he'd make a little title. So we put.
Did he send it to Stu house or just Attention Teddy or actually
to Stu's house, but it was for Harry.
Okay, for Harry.
And so we put it in. We were watching the tape, and we were gonna just fast forward to the end, but we didn't really watch WCW. We didn't get WCW regularly at that time. So we're watching, and then Ray versus Psychosis. And then
it was the opener.
Yeah. So this is I think he might have had like the pre-show on maybe Saturday night on this tape too. So like we watched a few matches, then we got to Ray and Psychosis, and then it's summertime, so the ring was set up outside. Right. So we were so blown away. We were so blown away by the match. We kept rewinding.
So ahead of its time.
Yeah, so we kept rewinding. Then we'd rewind. Then we'd press play. Then we'd see something. Then we'd press pause. Then we'd go outside. We would try it in the ring.
Wow.
Then we'd come back in, press play, see the next thing, pause, go outside, and then that changed my style at the time. But and then Teddy really took off to that style. Then later on he kind of discovered like Sabu, and he started really liking he started really liking that style. But that's what we would do at first. Is we would just practice a lot, and I would just copy matches. And then in 1999,
so there was Stu involved in your training, like even just giving hints.
Oh sure. And he stretched me a few times, and it hurt a lot. And
it's always it cracks me up, the story when Stu he would say, "Just give me your hand."
Yeah.
You ask for it, so you know what's coming.
Yeah, but you can't fight it. You just have to. And then once you're grabbed, it hurt. TSN once was filming a thing, and I loved being in Stu's presence, so I'm down there watching it, and then I get called onto the mat, and I was like, oh, that was my first time getting stretched, and like, it's funny, Stu, he liked it if like you didn't sell it.
Yeah.
Like, but everyone's gonna sell because it hurts. But I remember being when I first got stretched. I'm probably 14 or 15, and he's putting me in this hold, and I'm trying my hardest not to. Yeah, but like you can't help it. And then just like I think maybe Brett said it on Wrestling with Shadows. But like just when you think it's gonna like, oh my God, my body can't take this. He lets go, but he had a little sequence of moves. Like it would be like your arm, and then it would switch without letting go. Then it would switch to your neck. It was so like this beautiful transition of moves from one to the other to the other to the other, and it all hurt equally. But like at one point when it's hurting your shoulder, you're like, oh no. Then it switches off. So now your shoulder feels okay. Yeah. Now your neck's hurting, and like he liked watching us wrestle, but he really. When we started doing Frankensteiners and like superplexes, I remember we were so young.
Did he like the style?
He did not.
Funny and Dynamite was his guy in that territory.
Yeah, but I think maybe just we were so young that he was like, "What are you guys doing?" I remember we thought we had this awesome match, and a lot of it we copied from Ray and Psychosis, and the finish was Teddy gave me a superplex. I remember I in my life I've taken so many superplexes because we used to do it all the time, and we called Stu out to come watch us have a match, and we had this match, and he liked it up until like I did a Frankensteiner. And this is 1996, so it's not very common,
right?
Especially in American wrestling at this point, and then. And then in '96 I also figured out how to do a Frankenstein off the top. So now we do a Frankenstein off the top, and then we do the superplex. I remember Stu was like, "You guys are gonna break your goddamn necks." And he got kind of right eventually. But
do you remember any advices Stu or even Brett and Owen gave you when you were kids, and you think it's a pretty valuable advices?
So one really cool thing one time was like same thing. I remember Ted and I were. Talking to Owen, and we explained that like we knew that we knew how to do moves, but we didn't know how to put things together, and we didn't know we didn't know psychology at this point. And so Owen came down to the dungeon with us, and then he called a match for us to do. Right. And then we did it, and he was the one who was like explaining this. Right. He had us do it, like he called everything, and then he explained the psychology after to us. And like this, so that was really awesome. That was very awesome.
That's funny. You speak about that psychology a little bit, like not much in WWE, but sometimes in the modern wrestling, when I see some of the matches, you go, it's too flashy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like okay, there are some cool moves.
Yeah, right now there are some great athletes and some really cool moves.
Matches. But for example, Jushin Thunder Liger, Owen, and Eddie. They were doing such high flying
and really cool stuff.
But I didn't have that feeling while watching those matches.
Yeah.
It was still a wrestling match.
Yeah, I think sometimes it just gets taken too far, and and it's fine. And I understand everyone's kind of pushing their own boundaries, their own athletic boundaries. So I understand why they're doing it, and then then they have the audience reacting. So. They feel they're doing the right thing, and maybe for that audience, it is the right thing.
I think it's fine to do the high flying move, but what I cannot take, like for example, someone is going to jump on someone on the outside, and I would see the wrestler just looking at the other guy waiting for him to jump. It's totally taking.
So like if that's the example, like. I don't know. I don't understand if that's just like poor. That's clearly poor technique. I just don't know where does it come from. Like who? Like as a kid, I understood. First time I caught a dive was Harry dove on me on a show somewhere, and I knew that before he dives on me, I shouldn't be standing there waiting for him. I should be selling.
Yep.
And then when he comes through, I'll catch him.
Right.
And I probably didn't do it perfect, but I at least understood what I kind of had to do. When I see that, I agree with you. It takes you out of it because
you was a fan, so those things you knew how. Like, what wrestling fan would grab and
like for me, what I really wanted to do as an in-ring performer was combine a bunch of styles. Like I didn't want to just be a technical guy. I didn't want to just do some high flying. I didn't want to just be a brawler, but I knew I wanted to throw good strikes that looked good. Yes. But I wanted to combine everything. I'd watch it, like I'd see how Tiger Mask did some stuff. I saw Dynamite did some stuff. Of course, Brad and Owen and Davey.
You had the heel spring kick.
Yeah. That looked awesome. Which we called Tiger Mask kick. Right. Yeah. So like, there's definitely. I tried to take things from different things that I'd seen and try to combine it. I didn't want to just do like one style. And I think in doing that, I watched a lot of wrestling, so much wrestling. Like, man, if the network existed when I was a kid, it would be the greatest thing in the world. I had like King of the Ring '94. I had it on VHS. Yeah. And I've probably watched that show over 50 times. I've watched that show so many times. If you sit down with me, I can probably. I can almost tell you everything that's going to happen, and I can almost tell you most of the commentary too. I've watched it way too many times. But I used to like record like Action Zone, right? And then all week we didn't get Raw yet at that point, and then all week long I would watch it until the next week, and then I could record over it and watch like so. Like there was a Shawn Michaels and British Bulldog match on Raw that aired
1990.
Yep, right after the Royal Rumble, 95.
I think 20. Yeah.
Sid's out there.
Right.
I watched that match so many times because I happened to have it on tape.
Right.
So I just watched it. WrestleMania 9. I watched so many. If I had it on tape, I just would watch it over.
I watched WrestleMania 9 all the time.
Yeah. Is that the one that you told me you'd go rent all the time or no?
No, that was WrestleMania.
Is that 6?
WrestleMania 6, but my first WrestleMania, it was WrestleMania 4, where I told you about my grandfather and my uncle was so hyped to see Macho Man versus.
Oh yeah.
They had to fast forward to the main event.
Yeah. See, so lucky I didn't do that, or I would not have seen Rey versus. And I remember I'd read Rey Mysterio's name in the magazines, but I'd never actually seen him wrestle. So then when he came out in that Psychosis match, back to that Bash at the Beach match, I was like, this is that Rey Mysterio I keep hearing about. So that's why we made sure to watch the match, and then they had our attention right away.
So I think the next step in your career it was Matt Rats.
Matt Rats, yeah.
I saw, I think a match, it was a 6-man match. It was you, Harry and Teddy against Jack Evans and 2 guys.
Oh yeah, so Matt Rats was really fun, man. So Stampede Wrestling was on TV. One of the guys they had one company recording the show at first. Then there was an issue, and they switched to this other company. Now this other company, he was at a show. He was at a show we were filming for TV. Maybe TV. Maybe it wasn't, because we would do 1 week, we would film 2 weeks of TV, and the next week we would do a show in Calgary, but it wouldn't be filmed.
Okay.
So this might be a non-filmed one. So he was at a show, and this is his story. This is what he's told me ever since then. He was at this show, and he said he was like bored with some of the matches, and he was getting So he was at the guy from the new filming company was at a show, and he thought that the matches that he'd seen were boring. I don't know who was in them, and he was getting ready to leave. He knew he was going to work with Stampede Wrestling, but he was just bored at the show or something, is what he told me. And then
just kidding. How funny it would be! It was one of your matches.
Well, no. Well, here's how
we need to know that.
Here's how I know it's not, because then I came out, then Teddy came out, and then he said, "Oh, these guys are smaller than the other guys." He's like, "I wonder what they got."
Oh, that's cool.
And he it's so funny that this is what caught his attention, but he said we did like a clothesline, and like when we did the clothesline, like Ted landed like say if I clothesline Ted,
right.
He landed he landed on one half of the ring and I land on the other. He said like we hit each other and landed like on total
the double clothesline spot, yeah.
Something like that, and we bumped so far away from each other, and he was like, wow, these guys are so athletic and like they move so quick, which like we were smaller, so we're gonna move quicker because we are smaller, but also we knew we were smaller, so we had to come out and kind of make an impact in our matches. Yeah. And then that's when he got the idea, like, wait a minute, what if like every match was the smaller guys? And then he
so which year was that, the early year?
This is the end of 99. It's going to cross over into 2000.
So that was before Ring of Honor and
yeah, way before, yeah.
That the whole promotion was based on that.
We filmed Matt Rat's the pilot we did 2 episodes. We filmed those pilot ones December 15th, 2000. So now one of the next Calgary shows, maybe 2 months later, he said, hey guys, I've been having because now he'd seen a few of our matches and now we kind of knew who he was. He said, hey guys, I have this idea where we take you guys, and instead of you guys just being on the show, you guys are the main part of the show, and everybody's like young and smaller and quicker. He's like, I love that style. It just caught his eye, and it just was something he wanted to do. And they had
pretty much the new independent style of wrestling.
Yeah, which like didn't exist yet.
Right.
I don't know the first years of like those Super 8 tournaments. I don't know. I don't even know if they existed yet in 2000. So the funny thing is, Ted and I had been training. He had a ring at his dad's gym. We had a ring. And we were training kids already, so we already had we already knew how to train young.
Passing knowledge to others.
Yeah, and it helped. I always find that training people helps me sharpen my skills too. That definitely helped me a lot with ring positioning and timing in the ring. It was, if I'm going to teach somebody and tell them how to do it, I have to be able to show them how to do it. Otherwise, if I tell you how to do something and I can't do it. Right. Like it doesn't look good. I don't know. So
any of those guys turned to be wrestlers? Do you remember?
I'm trying to think who we trained. Well, later on came Jack Evans.
Oh, okay. Clearly, he was inspired by Teddy.
Rick Victor.
Oh yeah. Didn't you and Victor had a match in snow?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, at a football game, American football game. Canadian football game.
Briefly about that match.
Oh, man. So I just came home from England. I was in England for 6 weeks. And while I was in England, I got the phone call that I had a tryout, WWE tryout coming out in October.
You are talking 06, 05?
2006.
Okay.
So then I fly home, and I have 3 weeks before this tryout. When I get home, the guy that was running Stampede at the time told me, hey, we have you in this, hey, we're having a match at the football game at the halftime.
Right.
I said, okay, cool. He said, yeah, you versus Apocalypse was his name, but Rick Victor. I said, okay. And then initially, it's supposed to be like non-title because of course the babyface is going to win, but they accidentally announced it was a title match, so now it had to be a title match. And like, I come out to the ring in a Stampeders jersey, and he comes out to the ring in a Winnipeg Blue Bombers jersey as the bad guy. And we were told that we weren't allowed to wrestle in the jerseys, that we weren't supposed to keep them. We just wear them out, and so like
it was freezing.
It was freezing. That game, I believe, had like 30,000 tickets sold to the football game.
Wow.
And only like 12 or 13,000 showed up because of how cold it was.
So cold. Wow.
Yeah. So now here we are in halftime having this match, and WWE uses a different canvas than Stampede Wrestling. Stampede Wrestling was more of like almost like a tent material. So when it's snowing like that or raining like that, it was like a frozen rain. When it's doing that, instead of it like soaking into the canvas, it's just sitting on top of it. Wow. So like if in that match, I'm sliding all over the place, and I was like so scared. Like, what if I tear my ankle or tear my knee? I have a tryout in 2 weeks. My tryout was like 10 days or something after that. And
did you have to take it easy, or still came up with those spots?
No, I still wanted. Like, I knew it still was a big crowd, and I didn't want to take it easy. But I ended up getting like a little bit of frostbite on my back. that lasted for like 2 months or something. I had like a little spot on my back that was like numb just from being on. It was just so cold. And when we got to the back, they were like, "Oh yeah, you guys can keep these jerseys." I was like, "Man, I would have wrestled in it." But I was wearing 2 pairs of tights. It was freezing, man. It was so cold. And like anybody that knows, like when you're cold, everything hurts so much more. And I was like, this is so cold. It was so hard to warm up. I didn't get like a sweat at all.
Luckily for us, I didn't try such cold because in the Middle East, I think our winter is your summer.
Yeah. Oh, we have a visitor.
It is a great honor for me to be joined by one of the greatest superstars of all time. Thank you very much, Ray, for joining us in this segment. It's a pleasure.
No, thank you for the invitation.
One of my favorite wrestling matches of all time, it was the match between Tyson Kidd and Ray. It was on Superstars, I think it was on March 2010.
Wow.
Yep.
And the cool backstory behind it, I think the match, it was just few days before WrestleMania, where you had a match against CM Punk. And maybe for some wrestlers will say, okay, that's before the biggest show of the year and I'm having a big match, and this match is not taking part on Raw or SmackDown. Some guys will, I don't want to risk injuries, I want to take it easy.
Yeah.
But no, you go all the way, you put this an all-time great performance and you have this great match.
Yeah, I mean, TJ has a better memory of dates and moves and how it happened and when it happened. But I do remember, and for me, it's always been the way I was raised is this is my profession. This is what I've been doing since I was a kid, and you don't hold back. You always go out there, whether there's 5 people or 100,000 people. You go out there and you perform at your best. So and then being in the ring with this man right here, just he brings the best out of you. So it was a very, very entertaining match.
I actually rewatched it in my way to Riyadh through the bus, and before the match, both of you had that look in your eyes. No, this is a high caliber match. And Tyson, when did you know about that match?
So I told this story to Ray on the plane. Now here's what's so funny. That day, same thing. I don't think I'm going to be booked for a match that day because I didn't have anything going into WrestleMania. So we were filming Raw and SmackDown on that day and Superstars. We film it all one day, and then everybody's going to Phoenix. So I don't think I have a match. So I'm in the ring with Jamie Noble, and he's asking me for something about a different match, and I'm kind of helping him with a different match because we just have a good relationship, myself and Jamie. I mean, Ray and Jamie, of course, too. But anyway, then finally, Jamie looks at me. He's like, "Hey, so like tonight, what do you want to do with Ray?" And I said, I thought at the time there was a little period of time where Harry and I were wrestling Slam Master Jay and Jimmy Wang Yang.
Right.
And so Slam Master Jay's real name is Ray Gordy.
So you never had a match before that?
We had one in Philly on SmackDown. Batista's on commentary, and he pushes me down. It's like it's pretty short, but it's
2 minutes.
Yeah, but it's like those like 3 or 4 minutes are pretty intense, and that was really cool. But that was our only interaction in the ring at that point. And then so he said, "What are you gonna do with Ray?" Then I said, "Ray Gordy." He goes, "No, man, Ray Mysterio." He's like, "They were gonna open the show with you guys, but we decided to do Raw first, then we'll film Superstars before SmackDown." And I was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, I said, "How long is it?" Like, he's like, "You guys got two full segments. It's probably like 16, like 8 and 8 for
15 minutes.
And I was like, "Oh my god!" I said, "Ray wants to." I said, "Does Ray know? Like, is Ray wants to go this long? He has WrestleMania coming up." At the time, I don't know I'm doing anything with Brett and Vince.
Right.
At this point, I don't know that. I found out the night before, and then Ray, we found Ray, and Ray was game to do anything, and I knew that this would be a big opportunity because I knew both rosters were there, and I knew like Brett was there, and Pat Patterson was there at the time. Even still now, Pat doesn't come every time.
Right.
So it's cool to be able to get a chance to work in front of Pat, especially if you have a really good opponent, let alone a great opponent, then you kind of get cemented in Pat's mind of being good, which is a big thing, of course, in our company. So, man, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do everything in that match, and then when I saw Ray, and he wanted to do just as much, if not more, I was blown away. I was blown away by it, and there's so many funny like that. I love that match. I've watched it so many times.
I remember one of your interviews, you said this is your favorite match.
Yes, for sure. And what's very funny is to end Raw, like I think it's something like Undertaker is on top of the stage and Shawn Michaels comes out and super kicks him.
Yes, I remember that.
So now in Gorilla, Shawn Michaels goes and sits beside Vince, and then our match is next. Then we come out, and
so you guys had to follow that hot segment.
Yeah, in a different show, but yes, I mean, because we were running show after show after show, recorded, and then off we go.
But I knew that we'd be at least. First off, he's a superstar anyway, so I knew it would be okay. But we're in San Jose, so I knew they might not even know who I am, but I know they're gonna love Ray,
of course,
and we're gonna have so much time. We're gonna be able to lay this out for them. And like there's certain things that are like called in that match on the fly that like I'll never forget. Like Ray's on me something and he like shoots me into the turnbuckle and something, he's like reverse, and then he drop holds me into the turnbuckle, and then as I'm selling and he's like drop kick me, and then like he's on the apron and I was like, oh, he's gonna springboard, I'm gonna drop kick my head. He's just calling it on the fly. It was so fun. It was. And when we got backstage, Sean and Vince were both giving me a standing ovation when I got back there before Ray.
Match,
And Sean had already kind of taken a liking to me when I first came up, so it was cool, like that he sat in Gorilla and watched that. And then like Brett came up to me and Pat Patterson, and 2 days later in Phoenix, like Jack Lanza came up to me, and I didn't even know if he knew my name. He's like, "Hey Tyson, saw your match with Ray," because Superstars was still airing on WGN at the time. He said, "I saw your match with Ray." I was like. I told Natty and I've told Ray before, I've never got more mileage out of one match in my life.
Right. So it's Ray, special. Obviously you've been in the ring with Hall of Famers and legends. What did stand out when sharing the ring with Tyson?
There's a lot of similarities that we have. The fact that he was training at a very young age, just like I was. He loved the lucha libre style. As we talked before, and he said
was just saying that your match against Psychosis and WCW.
Yes,
we would watch it and like pause, go outside.
Yeah, he told me about that, and I was like, wow, that's to hear that. You know, normally you hear it from fans, but to hear it from a colleague, you know, and from the generation that he's coming from, you know, it's really cool. It's admiring. So. The fact that he was able to have an opportunity, just like at one point I had an opportunity to wrestle somebody that wanted to work and that wanted to have a really good match. So that just makes everything so much better. You know, when both opponents are on the same page and you're willing to go out there and put on a great match for the fans, you know, it's worth everything.
Or you two had the same mentality?
Yeah, oh yes.
I guess in psychology, yeah.
Yes, and of course that always helps out. The fact that we both didn't hold back. Like, hey, you think we can do this? Yeah, and if we did, let's try it. Let's see if it works. You know, so we were willing to take it a step further. Yeah.
And I think about. I found a little bit of similarity between your matches with Chris Jericho and the Tyson matches. Maybe they had the Alberta connection.
The Calgary style. Chris calls it Calgary style.
Calgary style.
It exists.
Tyson, through rewatching that match, I really loved your intensity for. I think you were yelling before and shouting for executing some of the moves.
Yeah.
And you had that really cool psychology of working on Ray's reps. What was the strategy? And
I just tried to pick a body part and try to tell that story of like, okay, I'm gonna try to stick to this body part and I'll try to stick out by doing, like, I know like our boss likes holds and he likes intensity, So that's what I tried to do a lot of in a lot of my matches.
Is it me, or have I just not been paying that much attention, or they don't tend to do that anymore?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, and that's what we were kind of saying.
That's kind of lost, right?
Yeah. I tried, especially at that time, especially as a heel, I would try to really stick to a body part.
Actually, Ray, since you mentioned it, you are the perfect wrestler to ask this question, since you are one of the greatest high flyers of all time. And me and Tyson were discussing this. In this match, there were some spectacular moves and cool spots and hot action. But when I was watching it, there wasn't any moment where I say, no, this is not real, or this is too much. Right now, in some matches, I can feel wrestlers are more of cooperating together more than wrestling each other. What is the, let's say, the secret, or what is the, how can you keep the balance between having those cool spots and keeping the wrestling fundamentals and the intensity?
I know exactly what you're saying, because I personally feel the same way. I feel like sometimes you're watching a match and it feels like it's too choreographed.
Right. Exactly.
And I'll go back and just watch stuff that I've done in the past, and I try to compare both of them. And you always, at least I've always tried to make it look spontaneous. I don't know, it's really hard to say why it's leaning more towards this looks so prepared.
Right.
You know, really, it's hard for me to say what the recipe is.
It's definitely hard to put the finger on what it is.
Yeah, I guess it's because everybody's style is different. You know, very different. I love Ricochet as a wrestler. He's awesome. He's awesome. But I can't compare his work to my work, or to any other high flyer out there. You know, Ricochet is like one of a kind. You know, yes, awesome, one of a kind. And you know, the stuff that I've done through the years of being able to do my high flying maneuvers, I've always visualized them and tried to make it look as real as possible.
Like how to add it in a real life fight.
Not even that, but just how can we make this look cool? And I actually I want to say that a lot of that has to do with how you were trained, and who trained you.
Right.
You know, I come back from mid 80s, you know, to late 80s of my training and lucha libre style, and the people that I was able to share the ring with at first were people that you learned on the fly, the Eddies and the Benoits and the Jerichos, Malenkos, you know. So I guess when you have to think right then and there without having something, oh, I know what I'm going to do, A, B, C, and D, but when you don't have A nor B or C or D, and right in the ring they say, okay, it's F, and you got to do it right then and there. So it happens in the moment, you know.
Right, I know what you mean.
Which makes it more realistic,
spontaneous, as you say. Tyson, there is a spot that I love, where this is actually a spot that Ray does, where he jumps from a rope to another, then he does the springboard moonsault, and you actually
I slipped.
Was it planned, or
I was supposed to jump to the other rope, like stick the landing and miss a moonsault.
Right.
But as I jumped, I was blown up. I was so blown up. I've only blown up in a couple of WWE matches, and that's one of them. And Christian is another one. I springboard, and as I go to jump, my foot slips, and I end up sitting on the rope and almost doing like a split leg. And Ray moved, and luckily he still moved, and I was so mad at myself.
But actually, it's made for a better story,
which is
because you was copying Ray's, and you didn't.
So that's how Brett came and found me. Like Brett said, actually, I love that you slipped, and he said that made it look so real. And I said that part was real. So if you watch that part back, then Ray hits me with the two crossbodies, and I'm so mad at myself that I'm not breaking my fall at all. I'm just eating it as hard. I'm so mad. I'm such a perfectionist when I wrestle that I get angry. Like in little split seconds, and the anger goes away just as quick. But I was angry at myself.
I think it added to the match, definitely. And the finish is a great, Ray, where you reverse the Rana, added to, in the reversal, and you.
Yes.
That, I think that was awesome. And after the match, what struck me, you had that look just by looking that you put over Tyson. That was a tough fight. I really loved like the body language shown. That was amazing, I guess.
Wow. Sometimes it's very hard to do with the mask. But I've learned over the years, and just being around again the greats and being told constantly, you know, by the Arn Andersons, you know, the Pat Pattersons, that your face is covered, so you need to show a little bit of what you can from your mouth, your eyes, and your hands. That's what does the emotion. So again, when you're put in a position where you can make your opponent look good, and you know you have bit of the higher power, this is what this business is about. It's the passing that torch, you know, and a lot of guys have done it. You know, a lot of guys have done it. So I've learned from the best.
Can I tell you one funny story involving Ray? That's not me wrestling Ray. So I copied so much stuff from Ray. Then this one night we're in Memphis. It's me against Christian. You just messaged me about the match.
The ACW match,
Yeah. There's a spot where I'm on the apron. Then Christian comes at me and I slide under the bottom rope and kick his leg out. Almost into a 619 position.
Yes.
So later that night, Edge and Ray have this 3-segment match on SmackDown. That's amazing.
Oh, wow, I remember that.
And Ray does the same spot. And then I saw Edge. Edge and the certain guys were so cool to me the moment I met them. Ray's one of them. Edge is one of them. Christian. So I saw Edge, and then Edge is like, man, he said, we saw you do it in that Christian match.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I've taken like 20 things from Ray, so it's cool. But it was so funny. It was in the same night, and it was again, awesome. It was on different shows, but it just was so funny when I was watching. I was like, I was like racking my brain. I was like, did I subconsciously get that from Ray? I don't know. It was so funny.
It's the other way around.
What would you say your top 3 favorite Ray Mysterio matches?
My top 3? Man. So I recently just watched the Kurt Angle SummerSlam match.
That's great.
It's amazing. Of course, Eddie, the Halloween Havoc 97 is probably number 1. I've watched the same thing. I've watched that match so many times. That's where the network is amazing.
Yeah, you can go back and just pick whatever you want.
Yeah. 3. There's this awesome tag match, Ray and Kidman against Shelton and Charlie.
It's from all 3, right?
In Denver, and they do the boost up Rana, I think, as like a false finish, and the crowd goes insane.
Wow.
It's I think Ray, right now you may be working with TJ as a producer as well.
I hope so.
Oh, you still didn't have the chance to be your agent?
Oh no. Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. He actually.
Yes, you can just tell us about.
I thought you meant me being a producer as well. No more wrestling.
Definitely, you will be.
Maybe one day. Yeah, maybe one day. But no, I mean, I always come up and ask him, "What do you think about this?" or "How can we do this?" And TJ has a great mind for this business, so I love picking his brain.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys.
And Ray truly is like revolutionized the business. So
absolutely.
Every high flying guy that you see currently, they got it from Ray. Ray was the one who really, like, prior to that was like Tiger Mask inspired a certain number of people, and then Tiger Mask in Japan was like set up in a certain way, but he wasn't here on like American television.
Right.
Ray educated a lot of people as to the proper mix of like high flying with selling and fighting from underneath, and he's revolutionized wrestling.
It's amazing. He's been consistent since the late 80s up to now. You're still as awesome as you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Unbelievable. Like those matches with Andrade, I was producer for a couple of them.
Yeah.
They were just. I didn't want to be calling it to the truck because I just wanted to enjoy the match because the matches were so awesome.
When you have the opportunity, the platform like WWE to be able to showcase yourself, you know, it's at that point you got to go in and do your work. And I've enjoyed the almost 20 years that I've spent with WWE, and the amount of opponents that I've had throughout my career just here, not counting WCW, has been incredible. You know,
amazing.
From Tyson to Undertaker to Kurt to Eddie. You know, there's just so many matches that I've learned so much, and you sometimes forget about certain matches that you've had and moments or stuff that you learn up until they ask you that question. You know, who have you worked with the most, or who have you learned from the most? And I really have picked a little bit from each and every single one of them that I've had, that I've enjoyed.
It is amazing. I always have this question in my mind, especially when it comes to the luchadors and the Mexican, for example, Negro Casas.
Oh, incredible.
Atlantis.
Yeah.
They always have this longevity. Negro Casas is 59. I was
He's
telling
still
you,
going.
You're always sending me matches.
He's still going.
Ray, you are right now, I think 20 years in the business. Is there anything behind such like longevity? And for the luchadors, although they are having like a high flying style, it's not easy.
30 years, Ray?
30 years. Yeah,
30
30,
years,
yeah, 30,
30
yeah.
years, yeah.
No, 20 years just in WWE.
Right.
I think the secret is just your passion. Like, I've always said that there's no reason why the sport should tell me it's time for you to go. You know, it has to be the other way around. I have to say, I have to know and understand when it's time for me to retire. And that's probably the best thing that anybody in whatever profession it is that you do, that you can call the shot and say, okay, I need to step back now.
To leave at your peak.
Yes, yes. Whether at your peak or whenever you feel like you need to step out,
Right.
you can't keep going anymore. For me, medicine has been so evolved
Right.
that it's helped me with my injuries, my knee in particular. You know, and that's actually what's helped me and motivated me to continue to do what I do. And of course, one of the major motivations is my son, being able to see my son train and hoping that I get the opportunity to share the ring with him. You know,
How
one
many
day.
years do you think you still have in the tank?
When I turned 40, I said I can't go past 45. Now I'm 45, and I say I can't go past 50. But I don't see myself going past the age of 50. Like, I don't see myself going.
Is it the style? Would it be tough to have this style at the age of 50?
Well, they were telling me that when I was 20.
Right.
To slow down.
Yes.
You know, you're not gonna last. By the time you're 30, you know it's gonna be hard. I turned 30, then I turned 40 and 45, and my style really hasn't changed. I've been smart enough to know how to adapt and still stay creative with my offensive moves. That, you know, the crowd still loves to watch me. I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's the amount of years that I've been doing it that they just respect the fact that I'm still going. But I'm still enjoying it. I think that's probably one of the most important things, that you have to enjoy what you do.
It's funny. I loved you like in your WCW days, in your ECW days. But my favorite version of it is the current version.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is my favorite.
Wow.
So
It's unbelievable to
awesome.
see at this stage that how good Ray still is. He's not just like what he just said. The fans do respect him because of his longevity and the amount of time he's put in, but he doesn't coast on that.
Right.
Right. He's not coming out and just kind of hitting the greatest hits and that's it.
Absolutely.
He somehow he just somehow keeps evolving. I don't. That's why
That's a gift. That's a gift that you have, and I've been very gifted, very blessed throughout my whole life, and to be able to make it this far when I was just a skinny little kid, short, that didn't even wasn't even gonna get an opportunity to wrestle in the big leagues in Mexico, to make it all the way to the U.S. It was like there was definitely a destiny for me, and I'm
That's
fulfilling
awesome.
it right now.
That's
Yeah.
I don't know who invented this saying, but I've heard a lot of people say it. The first person I heard say it was MVP. He said, if you ever hear somebody saying something bad about Rey Mysterio,
It was.
punch him in the face because they're lying.
You're right.
and it's still being said all the time. He was the first person I heard say it.
Yeah, that's
and it's
crazy.
true.
That's
You'll never
crazy.
meet somebody who who meets Ray and doesn't like Ray.
Actually, Ray, on the ending note, me and my wife, we met you back in San Jose in 2015, and always I ask my wife who are some of the nicest wrestlers that we ever met. She always
oh man, oh thank you very much. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I've always had the patience and the time to please and attend my fans. I really understand that the position that I have and that we all have. You know, we are made by the fans, so it feels good to be able to give back, you know, after so many years. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
No, thank you very much.
So I think you had several tours in New Japan Pro Wrestling as well.
Yeah, New Japan liked me when I was 22, but not when I was 23. I don't know. I did 3 tours like almost back to back to back, and then I turned 23, and then I only went once a year after that.
Any memories of those tours, like
man,
wrestlers?
Yeah, I mean, damn, I was so enamored by these guys. This is the first time I'd actually, like, Matt Ratz was guys I'd trained for the most part. Jack Evans was one of the guys I didn't train. Rick Victor is not somebody I trained, but I later on trained a lot with in Matt Ratz. And now when I went to New Japan, I was so enamored by a lot of these guys, because now I think we did like 13 shows in 20 days or something like that. It was supposed to be 14, wow. A show got canceled. And so it was my first time wrestling on that kind of a schedule like that.
And he was going by the name of
Stampede Kid, yeah. My Japanese trainer came up with that because Dynamite Kid, Pegasus Kid, Stampede Kid.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the very first guy I met, so they picked me up at the airport. I met Super Crazy, but then I was so scared to leave the hotel. I was so scared of getting lost and like being like just lost in Tokyo forever, which looking back is so silly, but at the time, this was before smartphones. I was scared, man. And first guy that I saw the next day was Pat Tanaka, and he said, "Hey kid,
wow.
we're teaming up tonight," which I knew the card. I knew that we had a 6-man tag, and I said, "Okay, cool." He said, "Oh yeah, it's me, you, and Super Crazy against
awesome combination.
This guy Kakihara." This guy Naruse and Minoru Tanaka. He was wrestling as Heat at the time, and then he said "Oh, Heat's the best. He's the best worker in the company, man. He's great." So the other guy, he didn't like I think Naruse. I think Naruse and they both hurt each other.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. And then I was so nervous, man, so nervous.
Was it in Corkin Hall?
Yeah, my first match was in Corkin Hall, and it was a TV taping. And so we did the match, and it was really, really cool after, because I was learning a lot about who these guys were. Of course, I know Liger.
Yeah.
Even my trainer gave me some gifts to give to Liger, and I saw Liger in the back without like his gear on, but I saw him and instantly I recognized him instantly. I knew like that's Liger, and I said, "Oh, Tokyo Joe present." And then anyway, I get to the back after the match, and Naruse, one of the guys I wrestled, he's like, "Oh, your elbow, so pretty." They call springboard swan dive.
Oh, okay.
Right. Your swan dive elbow, so pretty. Oh, I'm big fan of you. And then I was like, and
give you a little bit of a confidence.
And yeah, and I wrestled those guys like almost every night.
I think El Samurai as well.
Yeah, he was so easy, man. He was awesome. I wrestled El Samurai on my first, I did 2 Super Juniors tours. Actually, I think I may have wrestled him in both, but I wrestled him on that first one. I remember the ref telling me, "Hey," he said, "Man, I think this has been your best match you've had here. Me against El Samurai in a singles match." Wow. Yeah, he's very giving and very awesome. Really, really fun guy.
And of course,
Liger. People have asked me, you've asked, I know, because I wrote them all down, but I know I wrestled Liger 18 times.
Wow. Actually, I was searching for this match for a long time.
Then I finally sent you some clips of a tag.
That was pretty good. You had a cool like dynamic.
Man, that match in that I don't remember the name of the town. That match was so fun. It was me and this wrestler Akira against Kanemoto and Liger. So at that point, Liger he turned heel, but in the small towns, he was still a babyface.
Yeah, of course.
And so they did the deal where they do a double count out, and then they say let's restart the match, and
right.
they're all saying this in Japanese. I don't know what they're saying, but the crowd's going crazy.
Right.
And then we restart the match, and like what's really cool is early on when I come out is to like no reaction, which is fine in Japan.
Was it your first time in that town?
I believe so. So I came out to like no reaction, but then when the match gets restarted, like in the match they cheered for me, like I get back up to my feet and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
And then later on when the match gets restarted, I do something to Kanemoto and pin him, and like they're all counting 1, 2, and he kicks out. So it was cool that it went from zero reaction, and now, and at that time, Kanemoto is junior heavyweight champion and junior heavyweight tag team champion. So it was cool that I came out to no reaction, and then 10 or 12 minutes later, they think I might pin this guy that's a double champion. Wow. So that's a cool. That to me as a performer, that's always a cool thing. I did it lots in my WWE career. I did it lots where I came out to no reaction, but I promise, in the work I'm going to put in, I won't leave. I'm going to leave to a better reaction than I came out to.
It's not easy. Like we can see a lot of the guys. Sometimes the fans, they turn into the match.
Yes, yeah.
They have the intention before the match starts. We want to turn the match.
Yeah.
But to be able to not put that gets into your head, to actually turn. I think
it happened once to me, and this is before Punk left. It was I was wrestling Sin Cara Hunico in Mexico City, and we were having a really good match. I've good.
He was God, of course, because he was Mystico, right?
This is the other one. Okay. I teamed with him in Mexico. Yeah. That was awesome. That was so awesome. And they started chanting CM Punk during the match in Mexico City.
In Mexico.
Yeah, but Punk was still here. He was on. He was on in like 2 matches. But that was one of the only times that they did that to me. And we just kept. We didn't let it bother us, and then they started
getting into it.
Yeah, they started getting into it. But I did team with Sin Cara in Mexico. That was fun.
How was it working with Kanemoto?
So I teamed with him a lot on my first tour, and I learned so much from him. Just watching him, watching how he moved, and watching how he carried himself. He carried himself. I was bigger than him. But he carried himself like he was 6'5" and 300 pounds. And the toughest human on the planet is how he carried himself. I love that confidence. And I tried to take certain things from Kanemoto. I learned so much from him that first tour.
I can see the similarity and inspiration, like the intensity.
Yeah.
How
man, I message him sometimes on Facebook, man.
Really?
He's one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, and I didn't really know much about him before my tour. Then later on I saw a bunch of like that crazy match he has with El Samurai for Super Juniors. Yeah. I didn't see a lot of that prior to being there, and that I remember I came home from Japan, and I was telling like Harry and Natty, I said I think this guy might be the best wrestler in the world right now. And Eddie Guerrero does a shoot interview. Because he was in New Japan. He did a tour in 2002 as well, same time I went.
Oh, really?
And in that shoot interview, he says Kanemoto is one of the best wrestlers in the world.
Wow.
In that same shoot. I didn't know. Yeah. I saw the interview later on. And I was like, Eddie said the same thing. He's right, man. Kanemoto is the man.
Good. Especially, like, you guys, you kick with intensity.
Yeah, When I wrestled him the first night on my second tour. And man, he hit me so hard on a couple things that I was like, oh, maybe I don't like this guy. but then we wrestled a lot during that tour, and he was great. And every time that I would see him, he would always be so nice to me. He must have known, he must have understood that I liked him and that I respected him right away, because he was, besides that one first match, he was always so nice to me. But when I teamed with him on that whole tour, I learned so much watching him. And the cool thing about Japan is they do, so the first tour I was on,
when was that? Which year was
the November and December 2002. I'm trying to think who wrestles. Kakihara wrestles Kanemoto at the end of the tour for the junior title. So we're doing these 6-man tags, and during these 6-man tags, Kakihara's getting the win on like he's getting the Kakihara might be getting the win on, say, like I'm trying to think who Kanemoto would have been tagging with at the time. like Gato and Jado weren't on that first tour I did.
Brian Danielson, maybe.
He's not on that first one with me either. His first tour, you like El Samurai, like Kakira's beating like Kanemoto's partners leading up to this match. Then finally, maybe 2 days before the title match, Kakira pins Kanemoto in a 6-man tag. Now they do the title match, and the title match was so good, and I was like, oh my God, man, this match is unbelievable. And then my next tour was the same thing. It was me and Brian teamed up that whole tour. We did a lot of 6-man tags and a lot of 8-man tags.
The Gato and Jado match, that was fun.
That was so fun. That was the second day of the tour, and my first tour, Jado and Gato were doing a Noah tour, and then they came back, and then I wrestled them that second day of that second tour, and they were like, all right, today is a 15-minute time limit draw. So it's hard to plan out. In a match like that, you can't plan out every minute because,
and especially they are not non-English.
Yeah. So a lot of that match is just kind of wrestling on the fly. It was really fun. It was so fun, and they don't wrestle like that. They're not so crazy into like strong style. They like American style, Jado and Gato.
Yes.
So the day before, I wrestled Kanemoto in a 6-man tag, and it was like me, Tiger Mask, and Daniel Bryan against Kanemoto, Liger, and a protege of Taka Michinoku, Minoru Fujita. And Kanemoto hit me so hard that day. And then the next day, I was hitting Jado and Gato so hard. And when we got to the back, they were like, hey, great match, great. They were very excited with the match. And then they said, hey, Kid-san, you know forearms? Then in my head, I'm thinking, I can't throw them any harder. I'm hitting as hard. Please, maybe a little more soft, more soft. They said, and then I realized, wait a minute, if somebody hits me hard, I'll hit them hard. If someone hits me nice, I'll hit them nice. And that's when that switched. I got it. They were awesome, man. Jado and Gato. Liger, always real cool with me. He got mad at me one time. He didn't. I had a match with Minoru where like something went wrong, and then just the match should have been way better than it was. It wasn't that great, and it should have been really good, and it wasn't. And he's like, kid, tonight, bad, very bad. And then I said,
he was straight shooting.
Yeah, which I appreciate. And I said to him, I know, I'm sorry. Tomorrow will be better, I promise.
I think there's this cool picture where you actually superplexing Liger.
Yeah. I had fun wrestling him because on that tour with Brian, we would come to the back, and he would always be clapping. He'd be like, guys, perfect. And me and Brian wrestled Liger and Samurai. We did a lot of like 8-man tags and 6-man tags on that tour. Same thing against Kanemoto and Liger for a lot of it. It was fun. And then the next one was my Super Juniors tour, which was I had a lot more. In my first 2 tours, I did 1 singles match. I'm just trying to remember who did I even wrestle in a singles match that first tour.
El Samurai, I guess, right? I think I've seen them.
I think that one's his junior, not to the juniors tour.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it might be. I don't think I wrestled one of the young boys. Man, I'd have to look it up. I literally am trying to blank right now.
Here is the question. For example, we have some wrestlers like they are really great outside WWE, for example, in Japan, and they always ranked one of the best. When they do come to the WWE, we can feel some difference. They don't seem that great as they do like in their previous career. And the same vice versa, we had some wrestlers where they start in WWE, they are not like, let's say, putting the world on fire, but when they go outside of the WWE, they look better. What do you think? What?
So I think almost every wrestler works super hard. I think WWE, we have a very different work ethic. Like I've done Japan before. In Japan, it's a lot of like tag matches and not many singles matches.
Right.
in a whole year. You might not have that many singles matches. Like I remember I saw a thing a few years ago. Okada had 18 singles matches the whole year, and AJ Styles had 130.
Right.
It's not even close.
Right.
I think WWE, like,
you are going to get called out because of this.
I know that. I know that. But I'm just telling you from the experience of both sides of the coin. In WWE, it's 52 weeks a year. For example, right now we're in Saudi. We're in Riyadh.
Right.
SmackDown guys that are here on this tour, they were just in Australia. They did 4 days in Australia.
Crazy. Yeah.
The one time I did Australia tour was the most jet lag I ever had in my whole life.
Right.
They did Australia. They flew back to the States on Thursday. Yes. Then they did SmackDown live on Friday. Then they went home Saturday. So they still traveled Saturday.
Right.
Sunday was their one full day off.
Right.
Then Monday they flew to St. Louis to meet up with us, to fly here. Now tomorrow they're going to go do Crown Jewel.
Sure, yeah.
Then we're going to fly right after the show home. When we land, we're going to land Friday morning in Buffalo. They're going to go do live SmackDown. I'm going to go home.
Absolutely.
There is no schedule like this.
Remember when we were talking in New York, we were like thinking, is there anything like it, like such a job like being on the road all the time?
I don't think
out of anything. Yeah.
I mean, like if you're like a salesman for like a high corporate company that has to do a lot of traveling, right. But are you traveling every week?
And you don't have the physical.
Yeah. Like it's rough, and like Japan has a certain style that is very much respected, but right. Japan's not a giant country, and they're on a lot of bus rides and stuff. We're driving ourselves. Like if I'm going from a pay-per-view to Raw and it's 250 miles, even as a producer, but as a talent, I'm performing. Right. Then I'm driving that 250 miles. Then I'm performing again the next day. I watched a tour, my last European tour as a talent. We wrestled New Day, Cesaro and I. It was so fun because the audience turned us babyface. It was not at all what we planned to do. And I watched John Cena and Seth put in 30 minutes every single night in a singles match, Seth would win or get disqualified, and then at the end, John would give him an AA off the second rope through a table every night.
That's tough.
Our schedule is second to none, and you get a crazy work ethic here. That's why I think when someone is maybe here, maybe they're not pushed or they're not utilized as good as their actual talent is. When they leave here, they're such great hard workers that they do set the world on fire. And when vice versa happens, I think it's a matter of maybe creative or whatever. But sometimes you come here and this schedule will kill you.
How about, like, I think it's more about TV production and presentation.
Yep.
Maybe some of the guys are really good in the ring, but I remember one time you told me about Randy Orton.
Yeah.
When you say, like, you guys, okay, you say he's a good, but you even don't realize how good he is when it comes to...
Unbelievable. He's so good. Randy is so good. He understands everything about the cameras, and the second he comes out to that curtain to the second he comes back, he understands every element out there that I understand. Maybe some fans they don't quite see it, and they might not understand it, and they may not appreciate it or even care, which is fine. Everyone can have their own opinion. I'm just telling you from my point of view and what we do. Randy, I don't even know if he knows how good he is. He is so good. Which is kind of funny. I remember my friend would translate for me. So Jado and Gato would do interviews in the Japanese magazines, and they would say, fans don't we don't think fans understand how good Stampede Kid is. He's
like what you call
like. I think I'm like, to me, it took me a long time to connect with WWE's audience, not in certain aspects. Yes. Some things they took to me right away, and some things they didn't. I think I'm like, I would call myself like a wrestler's wrestler. Like if you wrestle me,
you would know.
Then you go, This guy's good. Like, so he never told me this. He told Natty this. I wrestled Seth on a Christmas loop in 2011. And after our first match, he told Natty, he did not tell me this. I was driving, Natty said, like, oh, Seth was really funny. He came up to Natty and he said, hey, I always heard that TJ was really good. Right. I didn't know he was that good.
Yeah.
I didn't know he's as good as he is. And that was just after wrestling one match. And
it's coming from
and I think the world of Seth. I think he's awesome. Like, we had a cool moment this year, like after WrestleMania. Like, he pulled me aside and we had a really cool talk. That meant a lot to me. Man, we have a great relationship. We just have a lot of trust with each other in terms of me being a producer and him as a talent. I don't second guess anything he says, and vice versa. We get along great.
Who came up with the name Tyson Kid?
Tyson Kid? So it's kind of a combination of Natty and myself. I got a phone call on a Wednesday, and they said, hey, we're going to bring you to TV this week. On Monday, you'll probably do a dark match, and on Tuesday, we'll do ECW, and you'll debut. You need to come up with a name. Then I was trying to, like, I said, well, can I be called like Stampede Kid? They're like, maybe you can, but you need like a name.
Right.
I was like, okay. Then I said, can it be TJ? Because my legal name is Theodore James. That's my first name is Theodore James. I said, can it be TJ? Because that's not my real name.
Right.
They said, no, I don't think so. Damn. So now I have no idea. So I'm sitting there Monday while we're in Anaheim.
Did they throw at you
we're in Oakland. They did, yep. They threw some suggestions. I can't remember all of them at all. I can remember only one. Maybe they only told me one. I don't remember the last name, but Ethan something. Right. Then I said, Ethan? Like, where? I'm thinking, like, Ethan doesn't sound good
like
to me.
A teacher.
Yeah, and I said, like, they said we looked up the most popular names where you're from, and Ethan's, and I said, man, I'm from Calgary. I don't know any Ethans. I know the actor Ethan Hawke. Yeah. I don't know any Ethans, man. I looked it up. They were right. The writer was right. It's in 2009 or whatever. It was the most common baby name.
Yeah.
So I don't know babies, but okay. So I knew I wanted a name that starts with the, like, I was thinking of just weird stuff like, okay, I'm going to be doing autographs. I'm used to signing, my name is with a T. Right. I want something with a T. Then I was like, what sounds like a fighter's name? Then, of course, I'm a giant Mike Tyson fan.
No, you are, yeah.
So I was like, okay, Tyson. And then I was like, I thought that it's still incorporating the Kid name, like Dynamite Kid and Stampede Kid. I thought, like, maybe, and like, I'm a basketball fan, and I like Jason Kidd, and I was like, if it has two D's, then it feels like a last name, a real last name. If it's just KID, then it feels gimmicky. It's going to be a gimmick anyway, but I don't know. So Natty and I just kind of came up with it. And I said it to Johnny, and he was like, sounds good. And then, so I wrestled Jamie Noble in a dark match in Oakland, and on the screen it said TJ Wilson, and that was the last time I ever wrestled as TJ Wilson ever again.
It was an ECW, right?
Then the next night was ECW, and I wrestled a guy who's now a ref in WWE.
So, which is?
His name's Brian Nguyen. We call him Bonsai.
So right now we are talking about ECW. I feel this is your first break in the main roster. And
so nervous. I was so nervous. So before me, a bunch of guys had been kind of in developmental for like 1 to 2 years, kind of called up.
Right.
And then fired. Like Sean Spears, Cole Cabana, Ryan Braddock, Kazarni. It happened a little bit later on, but DJ Gabriel. Like, there was a bunch in a row. And now I got called up, and I was like, Ricky Ortiz. Then I was like, oh no, my part of this same thing. But Kidman had told me the week before that the idea came up in the meeting, and that Natty was going to be my manager, and I would. So when I saw the verbiage of the promo that I was trained by Bret Hart was going to be the promo. So I thought, okay, worst case scenario, the fans. So it's so much pressure, but the fans will maybe give me a chance.
Yes, the best.
So like it's a good and a bad thing. What's a funny thing that a lot of people think is like that, and Harry included. They think like me, Natty, and Harry had an easy.
Yes,
to get a job.
Since,
they couldn't be more wrong. Brett was not on good terms with WWE at the time, and
must be tough.
He came back and did the Hall of Fame, and he did his DVD, but he turned them down on every single other thing. It wasn't that it was tough, but we didn't have help with it. We did it on our own. In terms of that, and like I've had a great relationship with Johnny my whole time here, as like now as a producer and as a talent. John Laurinaitis, awesome. I will never say a bad word about him ever, on or off camera. You won't ever hear me say a bad word about him.
We are still in the highlights for me as a fan. It was your match against Fit Finlay. And he was one of my favorite, and to this day he is still. He is
so good. He is so good. I think he might be in that same kind of realm. Like I think fans can understand that he's good. Fans can't understand how good he is. He is unbelievably good, and he is like really, really tough too. And
was he in his early 50s when you had this match?
Late 40s. Yeah, unbelievable. And like I wrestled him on some live events too, and man, the first night that I wrestled him, I was so scared. And then after that, I realized this guy is so good, and I loved wrestling him. And we had a very good, and we still do. We had a very good mutual respect for each other. He really enjoyed wrestling me too.
This is what's interesting. Usually, Finlay is a bad guy. But in this program, we are the bad
guy.
And we rarely see him as a
and you know what's funny? I think there was a little part of me and my intensity as a heel that reminded him of himself a little bit. I later found out that, like, because Natty and I are both good friends with his wife, that after the first time I wrestled him, he like called his dad and told his dad about me.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah.
Which is like, what a great high praise. I was blown away when she told me about that, because I was like, what? Why? But man,
it was absolutely a great match.
Yeah, that was at MSG. That was the last TV taping until what we just did. But Vince came up to me that day. He said the yelling and the screaming is great, and Vince loved that match, or at least came and praised me for that match. And yeah, man, it was so awesome to wrestle. I cherished it. I knew in the moment as it was happening, I knew for me it was very special, so I tried to enjoy every moment of it. So yeah, I mean, he's so good, man. Unbelievably good.
The Christian match. That is another fantastic match.
The Christian match was so awesome. That was Christian. Probably the most underrated of all time, maybe.
Has to be.
Because fans do understand how good he is, but he's even better than that. He is so good. Christian.
What's so good about him?
I don't know. He just knows.
Yeah.
He just knows where to put everything in the right spot,
and nothing so flashy about him.
No, but he knows he knows like how to
structure
and even if he has to change something on the fly, he can change it on the fly. He's so good. I watched him have so many good matches with so many different people. I watched him on a European tour with Jack Swagger
they had a great chemistry.
Awesome match every single night. I watched
the Zack Ryder program with
unbelievable. I watched him and Yoshi tear it down. When they came back to Gorilla, was a standing ovation from everybody. Yeah, man, Christian is so good. He's one of the only times I got blown up was in a Rey Mysterio match and in a Christian match. Yeah, and Christian and I, we always joke about it. We have a funny joke about that match because I have him in a hold and he's saying something to me. He's calling something to me. And the ref, as Christian's talking to me, the ref also tells me a different message. So the ref tells me, hey, pull Christian back down and get the hold on. So Christian's talking. As he's talking, I pull him down. And he said, hey. Then I look at him and he said, who's calling this match? Me or the ref? Then I said, you, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, we're good friends. I moved to a different part of just outside of Tampa, but we used to live really close to each other, probably 10 minutes away, less than 10 minutes away.
So you're still maintaining?
Yeah. Like I'll text him a bunch. We're very good friends. He's a great guy. Unbelievable performer, unbelievable.
And he excelled both as a heel, a bad guy, and as a good guy as well.
And he's great at both, and great at being singles or tag team. He's unbelievable.
Speaking of tag, obviously the Hart Dynasty run. What is different about your tag with Harry? You've tagged with Justin Gabriel as well, and later on with Cesaro. We'll cover that as well. What was?
Well, it's funny. So Harry and I, we had teamed up. Like my very first match ever is teaming up with Harry. Me and Harry against Teddy and his brother, who passed away from flesh-eating disease. So Harry and I just kind of had this chemistry because we'd practiced and learned so much with each other as a tag team and as opponents. Yeah, that was, and like when we were a tag team in FCW, I think we opened up a lot of eyes of people going like, okay, this is tag team wrestling.
Right.
Okay, cool. And we had really good chemistry with each other and with our opponents in FCW. That we were a team down there for like a couple months, and then we kind of got the green light to get called up, and then we got called up separately. It was very bizarre. I don't know if it was a long-term plan. I don't know where it came from. And I was on ECW for a couple of months, and then we were in Dayton, Ohio, and Harry got the call, and then we were doing the Hart Dynasty, which was the same thing. So
I feel you guys, Hart Dynasty came in a time, maybe tag team wrestling wasn't that hot.
Nope.
And you guys were a breath of fresh air.
I remember them telling us they didn't really have that many tag teams for us to work, so they would have to put two guys together for us to wrestle against. So we'd wrestle like Christian and Tommy Dreamer, or like we had a lot of like funny matches like that.
The Usos program was pretty awesome.
Oh, I loved it when the Usos got called up. I knew before I ever put a finger on those guys. I saw them have this crazy match in FCW. I saw them in two crazy matches in FCW.
Against who?
Usos against Trent Beretta and Kalen Croft.
Right.
And the Usos against Epico and Hunico.
Okay.
And it was unbelievable. Like that style wasn't being done in FCW that much. This really crazy stuff. I saw them, and I'm real good friends with Trent, and I text him. I say, hey, I saw that match with Usos. I said, those guys are the real deal, huh? He said, man, they're so good. And then when
always the Samoan have been,
dude, it's like if you're born,
yeah,
and you're Samoan, you already know how to wrestle. It's no problem.
We had the wild Samoan, then the Islanders.
Yeah.
The head shrinkers.
I love the head shrinkers as a kid. Loved the head shrinkers. Rikishi and Roman too. He got it right away. Roman understood wrestling instantly, and it's just a part of their. I don't know, man. It's crazy. They're all so.
It's in their DNA, I guess.
They're all really good, and they're all really tough.
Right. So we were talking about the tag team, the Hart Dynasty, you and Harry. But you guys were a great opponents to each other as well. So
what was so funny is being good partners, very good partners with each other, is we knew about this type of matches we'd had. And actually, we had one or two in FCW. We had a couple. We had one on FCW TV. I was very proud of it. And we had a couple of, I don't think any of them were on TV. We had like 3 triple threat matches with Loki.
Oh,
yeah. Then like
I do remember your match with Loki. That was good, but I don't remember seeing the triple threat.
Yeah, we had a few triple threats, but I don't think for TV. But we did have a singles for TV, so we knew what kind of work we could have against each other. So when we lost the tag team titles, and I knew what was going to happen. We weren't going to get those titles back, at least not in the near future.
Right.
And now in my mind, we just were going to be used to keep getting beat to all the other teams.
Right.
So I thought, man, we've had a good run. We won the titles. So I called Harry. I remember a writer told Natty she was gonna do something on the Raw after the pay-per-view Night of Champions, and she was gonna win like the #1 contenders battle royal for the Divas Championship.
Right.
And I said, ask him what we're doing. And Natty said, what about the boys? He said, we'll talk on Sunday. So I knew.
Still didn't have anything.
So I knew right away we were losing the tag titles. I knew. By his.
That was before. Losing
yeah, we hadn't lost them yet. So I called Harry. I said, hey, we're losing the tag titles on Sunday, which is fine, no big deal. If you win a title, you know you have to lose it. Yeah. I said, here's the thing. What do you want to be? Do you think you're a better heel or babyface? I said, because we're gonna break up. I don't wanna be a team anymore. Not because I don't like you and I don't have trust in you. Now we're just gonna be used, I think, to put everybody over. Yeah. So let's break up and let's show them the matches we can have. Right. Do you think you're a better heel or a better face? He thought he was a better baby face, even though I'm the smaller one of the two. But I can make it work, I know. So I said, okay, cool. And then it just happened to be like really cool timing.
So did you ask for your breakup? Yes.
So that pay-per-view's in Chicago, Night of Champions. The locker room is we park, and then the locker room's upstairs, but Gorilla and Vince's office is downstairs. Right. I'm walking up the stairs as Vince is walking down the stairs, and he's like, Tyson, and we developed a good relationship at this point. I clotheslined him at WrestleMania by this point, and we have a good relationship. And I said, hey, I knew I wanted to talk to him anyway, and I saw he was in a good mood. I said, hey, do you mind if I come by and talk to you later today? I have some ideas. And he said, yeah, come by in about an hour. So all right, awesome. Came by and I told him, I said, hey, I said, people like to boo me. I said, I don't know if it's the haircut or my smile or a combination. And he was laughing. And I said, so I wanna turn heel on Harry, but I want to tease, kind of like Brett and Owen, how they teased. Remember they teased they were gonna wrestle. Then it's Christmas Day and they're back together. And I said, I want to tease, like, maybe is Harry gonna turn on me or I'm gonna turn on Harry. I said, I don't want.
Just building that.
I said, I don't want people to know where it's going, but I want them to see that there's tension. And he liked it, and I pitched a wild idea about, like, and I'd already actually reached out to Brett. I pitched a wild idea about, like, turning on Harry because we had Raw coming up in Calgary a month or two later. And I pitched a wild idea about turning on Harry and putting Brett in the figure 4 on the post.
Oh, that would have been huge. I'm not sure Brett would have.
I texted him. I texted him. He said he was cool with it.
Okay.
As long as he doesn't take a bump, he's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
That would have been thrown so much heat.
Yeah, my idea was not to get into this too long-winded idea, but my idea was we had the Raw general manager at the time, and I wanted at the beginning of Raw, Brett is out there, we're in Calgary, and he gets Harry and I together, and now there's no more
Just like similar to the 1997 angle.
Yeah, and now there's no more Hart Dynasty problems. And then the GM chimes in and says, all right, hey Brett, this is a great loving moment. Now you have to pick which one of the Hart Dynasty is going to wrestle Sheamus tonight for the WWE title.
Oh, wow.
Then Brett goes, well, I'll pick Harry because he's bigger.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, okay.
And I say cool.
Right.
Then then as the match is going on later on, my idea was like maybe the ref gets knocked out.
Right.
Harry goes to power slam Sheamus, but Sheamus drops behind, nails Harry, maybe grabs a chair. Then I grab the chair away from.
Right.
I grab the chair away. Now I come out. I grab the chair from Sheamus. He turns around. Harry turns around, hits him with the power slam. But now I hit a springboard elbow on Harry's back of his head. Boom.
Gotcha.
Put Sheamus on top of him. Here's the ref. 1, 2, 3. Here's Brett saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? Nice. Oh, man, I'm so sorry. Kick Brett in the stomach, pull him, figure 4 on the post in Calgary.
Would have thrown
but I think it was too big of an idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you might have get killed out of Calgary.
Yeah.
If you do that.
Yeah, maybe it's better it didn't go down. But if you watch the match that we did have there in Calgary that night, it's Harry and I against Cody and Drew. And at one point we're brawling and the camera's actually shaking. Like they were into what we were doing that night. It's too bad. I remember thinking, man, if only we could have done my idea. But and it was cool because I did end up turning on Harry on the old school Raw, like that first one they did, which was really cool. It was a cool moment. When I got to the back, Vince told me that I hit a home run on the turn. And I'm trying to think. So before that first match with Harry, I remember Arn Anderson sitting me in the stands, and he said like they were looking at Brodus and Jackson Andrews to be my bodyguard. Yeah. He said that way you can work with, he said we want you to work with Cena and Orton now, not in a year from now. Which is funny, that's 2010, and I finally wrestled Cena and Randy in 2015.
When did you wrestle Randy? I remember
both are in Europe, back to back.
Okay,
5 years later, Arn told me we want you to work them now, not a year from now. I ended up working them 5 years later. But
because he was kind of the small guy, and you have those big
bodyguards. Yeah. So I think when I had like I think there were really good intentions on having Jackson Andrews. It just something didn't work out on some, like they saw something that maybe he wasn't ready, and it just was one of those ideas that got stopped. But the match with Harry was in...
The match, it happened on an episode of Superstar.
Yeah, and we were in Philadelphia, which is a pretty hard crowd. If you give them what they like, they're awesome. But they're also very finicky.
What usually they like, the Philadelphia?
I feel like they like a little bit of violence, and they like intensity. They obviously like cool looking stuff. You know what I mean? Like they remind me a little bit. They're a bit more vocal, but they remind me of like Calgary. Like a Calgary crowd, that they like that same Calgary style. They're just more vocal. Like they will.
So if they don't like something, they will really.
Oh hell yeah! Like when we wrestled when we wrestled New Day at Royal Rumble on the pre-show in Philly, they did not like New Day in January 2015. They were not New Day fans. They were Kid and Cesaro fans. They were not New Day fans, which was cool. So I wrestled Harry that day, and leading up to it. And I'll only say his name because I truly respect him. But Arn Anderson, he kept saying, he said, man, he hadn't seen us work yet, and he said, I don't think fans are going to get into it because family fights. Like he said, we just tried this with the Hardys and it didn't work to the way we wanted it to work.
Right.
I said, okay, no problem. I feel you. But I knew what kind of matches Harry and I could have.
That's interesting because that's kind of true. I think the only program that between family that worked out was Brett
Nolan.
I think the Finals program that wasn't that good.
That's why he's not wrong. He's right. But I knew that we could make it work. And so we have this match in Philly, which I was very proud of. And I told Harry, hey, okay, this is what we'll do. Bump me everywhere on that mat, man.
That's the Superstars match, right?
Yeah. And so we have that match. We get to the back. This is why I love Arn. I see him. He's the first guy I see. And he said, hey, remember what I said about it not working? He's like, I was wrong. We can make some money with this.
Wow.
That's what I love about Arn. He'll say something and he believes in it. And if you don't like it, and you prove him wrong, he'll say, I was wrong. He doesn't, it was awesome. And
the finish of the match, it was a throwback to the SummerSlam match.
Yeah. And what I liked was, so it was like sunset flip, the springboard sunset flip. He sits on me, 1, 2, 3. Then it's like Harry's showing his, like, that he's the better man. He's trying to shake my hand. And then I slap him and roll out of there. And then he showed, like, great anger. He at the time, I think they didn't know if he had that emotion, but I think that right there, that match, he proved that he did. And I remember seeing Brooklyn Brawler in the back after, and he said, man, that match was unbelievable. He said you were like Shawn Michaels, man. You were bumping everywhere for him. I said, well, yeah, he's 6'5" and 260 pounds. That's my job. Yeah, that's the story. The story is he wants to still be friends. I don't want to. He wants to forgive me for making a mistake. I keep kind of doing cheap stuff to him, and he finally has enough and starts throwing me around the ring and kicking the hell out of me.
Well, I think what was remarkable about that period of your career, you were wrestling a lot in the like in the B shows and the Superstars and the NXT.
Yep.
And those shows usually they are tough because they are before kind of Raw or SmackDown, and the crowd is still they are still not ready to get into the show, but you always were able to get the crowd in the match. You had some awesome matches in Superstars against Zack Ryder and the Harry match. I think the program with TDiBiase Jr.
Oh yeah, so much fun that match. We had, you know what? That Superstars match we had, I was so proud of it. Jamie Noble was the producer, and he came up to me, and I think we filmed NXT before that. On those days, we would film NXT, then we would film Superstars, then SmackDown. And it was an episode of NXT, and I mean, I don't know if anyone can get mad at me about it, but it wasn't a good show. And
we are speaking about the NXT before.
Yeah, Redemption, and sometimes we would have some good shows, and this one just was one of those ones in the ring wasn't very good. And Jamie came up to me, I believe we were in Toledo, and Jamie came up to me and said, "Hey," he's like, "Man, you guys gotta kill this match." He's like, the crowd's dead. Like that show wasn't good.
Right.
And then I said, at that point, I started to develop. I think a healthy, not a unhealthy. There are different versions. I was developing a healthy chip on my shoulder, of like, okay, you want to put me on these B shows? That's cool. As long as you just keep letting me work, is no problem. And in all these different cities, I'm gonna go out there and try to have the best match possible. So the next time we're back,
and I think
some people remember that.
It was reflecting on the Superstar show. A lot of fans were watching that show because it had those hidden gems.
Yeah, like I remember having that first one on Superstars with Trent Beretta.
Yep.
And
you guys had a great chemistry.
I remember the announcer, Jack Corpella, he came up after and he said, "Dude, that was the best match I've seen on Superstars." He said, "Oh, I didn't expect you guys to go out there and do that." And I said, "Man, like kind of like what Ray was saying earlier, like when you're a performer, whether it's 5 people or 100,000, I'm the same way. I'm wired the same way." And I was like, "Man, like wrestling is an outlet for me, and if I'm not on Raw or I'm not on SmackDown, but I'm booked on Superstars, I'm not going to phone it in. I need to expend that energy somewhere." Right. So Superstars became the place where I was expending that energy. So
and I think the management, they did see those performances and they did appreciate the hard work.
There was definitely a part of that, like those Michael Hayes managed me those 2 matches. When we got to the back after that first Trent, not the first Trent match, but the first Trent match, Michael was my manager. Because the way it was set up before, like Gorilla would be kind of dead during NXT and Superstars because you're putting the final touches on SmackDown, so producers are busy, management's busy. But now Michael Hayes is out there with me. When we got to the back, he said, "Man, that was a hell of a match you guys just had. Wow." And that was him at ringside.
Right.
And then, so there were moments of that. Like, I one time asked for my release.
It is a good sushi, by the way.
Yeah, real good. I one time asked for my release, and
which year was it?
2011. I asked for my release like 2 or 3 times with Johnny. That's why I have such a great relationship with Johnny. I didn't really want to leave. WWE was my dream, but I just wanted what I felt was a little bit of respect and a little bit of recognition. I don't need to be the most pushed guy of all time, but I just wanted a little something, which I think everybody does.
You're not happy about your placement of the card or the way?
Yeah, I wasn't happy. Like, I didn't mind doing the B shows, but I also wanted to be featured a little bit too, here and there. I don't need all the attention on me, but I would like a little bit. And I remember getting no, maybe not an email, maybe it was in person. I said, like, I feel like a lot of people don't respect me here. And Johnny assured me, no, everyone respects you. It's just a matter of finding the right thing for you. Which now that I'm on this side of things, I see that. I see it a lot. Like, when I say we, I mean like the company will really like somebody, but they're waiting for the right thing, or we're trying to come up with it, or just not the right timing. And now I see it, and I was like, oh, but we get trapped in our own little bubble. But I remember Michael Hayes saying to me, he said, no, TJ, we want you here. And I was like, okay, look, I wanted to hear that.
I understand, because sometimes for the company, let's say, if they are going to give the one push for that guy, if it wasn't the right story and if it wasn't the right push, maybe that's it for him.
Yeah, and maybe like they can't recover from that, and then maybe then they end up getting let go.
So that's why.
Yeah. So
they understand it. Like they need to be a little bit careful about it. There is a wrestler. I'm sure most of the fans know about. His name was Yoshiatsu. He's a good talent, but he wasn't known that much for his great matches. And you guys had a match in NXT. It was a pool match where, like, you had to grab an object from the pool and hit your opponent with. I'm saying it. When you look at it on paper,
oh, it's so silly. It's a toy leg.
You would say there is no way that match is going to work.
From his action figure.
And my God, this match ruled so much. It was one hell of a match. So how did you guys pull that off?
It was so funny. So we show up that day, and I remember I think they told me about it the week before.
Right.
So I show up that day, and I see that they put in a lot of work to create that pole and stuff. And I was like, man, you guys are putting in so much damn work. Just put a little bit towards my direction. But anyway, I see Yoshi that day. I was just telling this story. I see Yoshi, and he told me, hey, I've been watching a lot of All Japan, and they do all these like false finishes. He said, so for tonight's match, I'm thinking if something, and you tease the sharpshooter early and I tease the high kick early. I said, yeah, that's cool, man. I said, we have 16 minutes for this match. I said, and Yoshi, there's no pinfalls and no submissions. The only way to win is to climb and grab the necklace. Yes. And he said, oh, really? He didn't know. And I was like, oh, man.
That's encouraging.
I was like, oh, man, it's going to be a long day. But then once we put it together, it all came together. And I remember Jamie Noble was the producer, and they played a little video package, and Jamie was like, damn, okay, they put a little time into this. And man, I'll tell you this, when I got to the back, I tried to treat it, I know it was a pole match, and the story obviously is us climbing, but I tried to treat it like kind of like a no DQ match as much as I could without getting in too much, not trouble, but bending the rules too much. And I got to the back, and Jamie Noble gave me the biggest hug, and he's like, that's the best anything on a pole match ever. He said pole matches aren't good.
Actually, I was reading an article about the top underrated matches in WWE, and this match actually was among the list.
That is so funny.
And it's so deserving. How was it wrestling Shawn Michaels?
Man, unbelievable. Like, it's so funny. I think about this. I was thinking about this last week. So the first time so Shawn Michaels, I wrestled a dark match against Jamie Noble in Oakland, and Shawn Michaels pulled me aside and like had a lot of really nice things to say to me about my work. Wow. Which I'm a giant Shawn Michaels fan, so that meant a lot to me. And he had a little bit of critique, but very positive stuff. And then 3 weeks later, doing ECW, it was the last time I wrestled an extra talent. He came and pulled me aside, and this time I thought I was in trouble. I thought maybe he was mad because he saw me do the springboard elbow, and he does an elbow. And he said, hey, can I talk to you over here? And I was like, oh no, I just ruined my relationship with Shawn Michaels. And then he said, hey man, like when you did this thing was really, really good. You know, just do this. I told him, I thought you were going to pull me aside and get mad about the elbow. He's like, no man, you do it. You jump up on the middle of the ropes. I can't do that. I climb in the corner. And then I mentioned to him, about Brett. I said, hey, just so you know, like Brett, I've had conversations with Brett where he does commend you for your abilities, and he said, hold on, he said he didn't know, like,
he didn't know at that point. Yeah, that was
because Brett was asking me like Brett was asking me like who's giving me advice. I said, man, Shawn Michaels pulled me aside right away. He said, really? So I told Shawn this, and then Shawn and I had a very serious. He mentioned it on the Brett and Shawn DVD when I gave Shawn Brett's phone number. But Shawn, we had a very serious talk, and he was getting a little bit emotional when we were talking about his and Brett's relationship. And then Brett was very curious about our conversation. But anyway, fast forward a few months to Bragging Rights was the first time. And there were all 10 of us, and we kind of put this match together. When everybody left, Harry and I actually stayed, and I asked like Hunter and Shawn, like, hey, is there any way we can do some stuff with you guys? Because I know that's not the story.
So you proposed that.
Yeah, I said, I know it's not the story of this match, right, but like, if we do stuff with you guys, like, there are people obviously who understand that like there's animosity.
Right.
And both were very cool. Like I remember.
Because you guys still had the heart family.
Yeah, so like we get heat on Sean, like we hit Sean with the heart attack in that match, and Hunter get like Spinebusters Harry, then Spinebusters Finn on top of Harry, then Spinebusters me on top of the both of them, something like that. So and then man, when we wrestled DX in Hershey on like the Thanksgiving Raw or whatever. They were very, very cool to us, very cool and very, very giving. And when we got to the back, Sean wasn't going crazy, but he was making a bit of a scene because they're on Raw and we were on SmackDown at the time. And Sean said to, I believe maybe Michael Hayes, but he was like, "Yeah, you're using these guys completely wrong." He's like, "These guys are so good," and he'd already stood up for me in a production meeting. One time, I was like,
so awesome for him.
Yeah, and
because the Raw match, you guys didn't have that much time.
Nope. Yeah, so we didn't have much time, but enough that Sean was impressed.
Right.
I mean Hunter too, but Sean was like very impressed. And then a month later is when we did the SmackDown one, which I think's DX's only match on SmackDown.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I feel it is one of the better matches of Sean and Hunter together. I love that match.
I love that match, man. And they wrestled a live event earlier in the afternoon. They wrestled in Jacksonville and then came to Orlando.
So that was their second.
Yeah, that day, yeah. And man.
And I really enjoyed your chemistry with Sean, where you had that spot where you was going to spring.
Yeah, and he turns it into the atomic drop, and his timing is so perfect. Right. And people might think he did it just looking off the Tron, but the thing is, the Tron is like, they don't air matches on the Tron anymore, but when they did, the Tron's like a second or two behind, so you can't, if I'm trying to judge something, I can't fully judge it off the Tron. I mean, his timing and like everything he took from me was unbelievable. He is awesome, man. I love working Sean. Those are the 3 times I worked him. It was great. Hunter too. They're both very easy and very accommodating with us, man. And even on this side of things, like when I've been Hunter's producer a couple times, it feels weird, but he listens to my input if I have any. But like, I always feel weird because like, what am I going to tell Hunter an idea? I can tell him an idea I have in a match, but like, if I thought of it, in my mind, he's already thought of it 10 times over.
He's done it over.
Yeah, so it's cool, man. I just saw Sean last week at the PC, and yeah, but still like a cool, like he saw me at WrestleMania in New Orleans as a producer, and he came and just told me like how proud he was and that like how much that I must be liking it. And he said, I had Finn, Miz, and Seth triple threat, and he's like, clearly you're doing a good job because that match was awesome. I said, well, yeah, but those guys are good. I don't have to do anything, but he's very complimentary and very, oh man, I've never had a bad experience with Sean ever.
For my money, I think NXT TV between 2014 to 2015, I'd really put it among one of the best TVs ever. Like, my favorites are Saturday Night Main Events or
Sure.
Raw in 1997,
yeah.
WCW Nitro from 96 to 98. Those group of talents like it was you, Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, Sami Zayn, Tyler Breeze.
Yeah. The women.
The woman, of course. That started the woman.
Yeah, unbelievable. So cool. It was so cool because like that wasn't like manufactured. It just happened. Like the Paige and Emma one was the first one, and then Natty and Charlotte, and then stuff just took off for them.
And I feel that during this period where more of the character and the personality side of some kid came through.
Man, I was working with Dusty every week. I'd go to Orlando and work on promos, and he helped me so much. It was unbelievable. All of a sudden, he unlocked my ability to cut promos, and I kind of developed this character. I remember when the idea was for me to become a heel, I didn't want to do it because Full Sail liked me, I felt, and like funny enough, I was the main event of the first taping at Full Sail against Axel. Anyway, I felt those fans, of all the fans in the world, those fans liked me, and like
most they really know their wrestling.
Yeah, and so I was like, I don't know, man. I had a bad taste in my mouth about being heel. I at least like being a babyface in terms of I could do cool stuff to like kind of excite a crowd if they didn't know me. And I was like, I don't know. But I mean, the writer told me it was Hunter's idea, so I was like, obviously I'm gonna do it. But in my mind, I had some reservations, but I knew I could cut better promos as a heel than I could as a babyface at that time. And man, somehow the dynamic, like nobody told us to do it, but the dynamic with Natty worked.
Yeah, that totally I was going to say.
Yeah, man, there
started to be the snobby.
Yeah, and like put her in the way of things, or she got knocked off the apron one time with me and Sammy, and then I roll him up. Yeah, man, I watch that stuff a lot when I'm home. It brings back great memories. I would drive home from Orlando to my house is about 90 minutes. I would drive home after those tapings with such, and Sammy and I talk about this a lot, with such a sense of accomplishment.
Right.
Because I'd wrestled, like one show, I wrestled 4 matches in a taping, and 1 in-ring promo and maybe 2 or 3 backstage promos. And not everyone can do that. It's not easy to do. And
you have
Sammy could do it, and Neville, unbelievable talent, man. One of my all-time favorites. And
because you guys are wrestling in front of the same crowd, so you need to have different matches.
Yes.
You need to have different.
And you have to look at it. It's not like a King of the Ring. Like a King of the Ring, when Brett's coming out for that 3rd match against Bam Bam, he's already been beat up in the other 2 matches.
It's like a continuous.
In these, it's a whole different week. So you come out and you're fresh. It's crazy.
I think I would assume one of the most precious moments for you and Natty as a family, it was the NXT takeover, where Natty had the NXT woman title match against Charlotte Flair, and you was in the main event against Neville. I think the match between Natty and Charlotte, it was the start of the whole woman.
Unbelievable. Match gives me goosebumps. The match is unbelievable.
And what is amazing, I think it's a testament to Natty. Charlotte was pretty new up to that point.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts of the match?
I loved it. The first time I saw Charlotte, I knew. I mean, obviously, even if you take the fact that she's Ric Flair's daughter, you take that part out of it. I saw this girl rolling around. Natty filmed a thing with her for Total Divas that I don't think ever aired. We went down to FCW and Natty was wrestling with her, and I was coaching Natty or whatever. And I saw how Charlotte moved. I don't know, man. Maybe 3 months into learning how to wrestle, and I was like, man, this girl's gonna be really good.
It's Flair's daughter, so it must be in her blood.
Yeah, of course. And I just saw, and I was like, this, even without a big push behind her, this girl will be very good.
Absolutely.
And I saw at that time her confidence. She hadn't built that confidence yet because she's so new.
Right.
Like she would do something, then look over at the coach and see if it was okay, and I'm thinking, stop looking at him. You just got to trust your instincts, but it takes time to understand that. And I just knew, man, when this girl gets some confidence, she's gonna be really good. So that match they had, I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, man, what the hell? They got Brett out there, they got Rick out there. They're out there, they're crying. I was like, me and Neville are about to go do a baby match. How the hell are we gonna top this?
How do you like Natty more, as a good guy or a bad guy wrestler?
I like both. I think she's got great intensity and great aggression, especially as a bad guy. But she has the most matches by a woman in WWE history.
Wow.
She has the most pay-per-view matches by a woman in WWE history.
Outstanding.
So she has this body of work that the crowd, a lot of our audience respects her. And when she comes out, if she's a good guy, they have no problem cheering for her. And if she's a bad guy, they might not want to boo her.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen both. And then, then there's cool examples, Natty and Becky, and actually, you know what? It'll be funny if WWE ever puts out this footage. That match is going on, and me and Seth are sitting together in Gorilla watching it. So, there's footage of that. Whether it ever sees the light of day, but
that was one hell of a match.
I love that match.
Especially it's a submission match.
Yep, submission match, which can be awesome, but also can maybe kind of handcuff you a little bit. Like Brett spoke about it in his book, the Bob Backlund match.
Right.
But I mean, those two girls went out there and they killed it, and it was such a cool ride because there were big Natty chants, there were big Becky chants, there were "This is awesome" chants, and then the sharpshooter in the corner through the turnbuckle. And then finally Becky with the armbar. I mean, I've watched that match a bunch. When I watch a lot of Natty's matches now, and I think, so I didn't realize it, but I think I used to use wrestling a lot as an emotional outlet as well as physical. Now when I watch what I deem as like a beautiful match, I like, especially if I'm by myself, I'll get emotional and like I'll have to fight back like crying. If I watch that match, I'll cry. If I watch like Canadian Stampede, I'll cry. It's something. If I watch my own matches, I don't cry. But if I watch, it's something really weird. If a lot of Natty's matches, I think because like she's coming on, I think getting close to like 17 years wrestling.
Pro,
yeah, and she tore her knee way before coming to WWE, or a year and a half before coming to WWE, and that's like her only injury.
When was the last time you saw Jim?
Let me think. 2 days before he died.
Right.
It was very bizarre. It was like it was meant to be. Not for any bad reason, but he hadn't seen his sister in 20 years. She lived in the West Coast. She lives in San Francisco. He hadn't seen his sister in 20 years, and she happened to come to Tampa. So she was there for the week, and he was like on cloud nine, and like they loved each other. There was no animosity. He just didn't see her for 20 years, and they hadn't seen each other for 20 years, and like they spent that whole week together, and they were looking at. I remember the last time I saw him, he's at our house, and we're watching these old like family videos, and like looking at these old pictures, and he was remembering this and this and this and this, and he was so clear, and. Man, I think so. Like at the exact time that her flight's taken off is when he passes away. Wow. And then I don't know the time. I don't know if it's 20 years but then like his father passed away like close to the same area in Florida on the exact day.
Wow.
20 years ago, 20 years before, insane. It was like he was at peak. Like we were all, like he just spent that week with his whole family. Like Natty's younger sister came with her 2 kids, so he spent time with them. He spent time with his sister. It was this
that he had to say.
It was this weird destiny that it was time.
How strong and Natty is, just she can pull through such. Because
I told her don't come to SummerSlam. Take time off to spend time with your mom and just stay home. And she said, no, I'm coming to SummerSlam.
Because I was really close with my grandfather, and his death totally devastated me, physically and mentally. And when I saw Natty at SummerSlam, that was a really inspiration. I think she's a tough girl.
Yeah, she's a lot like Stu. So's her mom.
Right.
Both just keep going. I think
the toughness of the heart.
Yeah, and I think Natty's the toughest of them all.
Right.
And her mom too. Her mom is the first girl after 5 boys. So I think she just had to be tough.
Had to be tough.
And so she was like Stu's little girl.
Right.
And man, she's a lot like Stu. They both are. They're just tough, and like nothing stops them. Nothing stops them. They just, like I told Natty, don't come to work. Don't just take some. No. And she hasn't taken any time off. And
going back to the Neville program, this guy is so good, and you guys had incredible chemistry.
They had me go wrestle him one show, like a NXT show in I think like Largo. It was like 25 minutes from my house at the time, just so we could kind of get our timing. So we had this match, And then I text the writer of NXT at that time. I said, hey, man, I wrestled Neville tonight. I said, this guy's the real deal.
He is.
I said, you have nothing to worry about. The takeover match gonna be fine.
What I love about him is, we know he's capable of doing all those crazy, everything, but he held back based on the match.
Yeah. He let me be the one hitting that stuff, and then he gets the win on the end anyway. And then I end up not turning that day, but eventually, because it's like the story became, I did everything I could, and Neville still beat me. If he'd done all his cool stuff, which is cooler than the stuff I could do, then he's just doing really cool stuff and beating me. But he's smart, man. And we wrestled the next day at the taping. And Michael Hayes came up to me and said, hey, I think today's match was better than yesterday's. The one where I go to grab the chair, but Natty stops me.
Oh, yeah, I love that. I agree,
and he's right, but I told him, I said, you're right. I said, but we needed to have yesterday's match at TakeOver to set this one up to tell this story. And he's like, you're right.
I love that match.
Yeah, me too, man. I mean, I loved every match with him. We wrestled a lot of live events, too.
I think one of the most memorable nights of your career, it was in Manchester in October 2014.
Yeah.
It was a TV taping, main event and a SmackDown.
Yep.
And you had two fantastic matches. Just tell us about those two matches.
So it was so weird. I'm trying to remember. I think I only did half that tour. I think because I was wrestling Neville and Sammy in three-way matches on that tour, and we may have only started at that TV and then done the second half. I can't remember that part. So I show up, I'm at, normally as a talent, like you show up and you might not know what you're doing, and then you go to catering and you're eating, and then you kind of see the producers start coming out of the meetings, or maybe you get texts, and then you start to figure out what you're doing.
At that point, you didn't know about any match you've
Nope. And then it was like, all right. I wrestled Sammy the week before on main event too. You know what, we were on the full tour because we did that match, then we stayed on the tour, that's why. So I wrestled him the week before on main event. Now I'm wrestling him again on main event. And
what I love about the previous match of Sammy, it was when we were talking about Ray, those little things. I think you had him in a neck breaker outside, and when you had him, you started to sell the back of you. That was awesome.
Yeah. I tried never to forget what the whole match entailed.
Right.
And then John Laurinaitis came up to me and said, hey, we have a triple threat match tonight, you, Cesaro, and Dolph. 3 segments, and it's elimination. Yeah, and he said no eliminations until the 3rd segment. It was in Liverpool.
Oh, it was in Liverpool.
Yeah, because Vince comes out and cuts a promo on the crowd after the Jericho segment with Hunter and Stephanie. But we had no clue about it. We were putting the match together in the trainer's room. We turned off a monitor.
Wow, right.
So I didn't know. And then we were out there, and I don't know, man. It was... I'd already wrestled earlier that night. I did 2 segments, and then this match is probably an hour later. And I don't know. It was one of those...
Things clicked.
Yeah, it just was magic. Because three ways can be tricky. They can be really good. Yeah. But sometimes when you're putting them together, the beginning can be really hard to put together. And once you kind of get the flow, it'll figure itself out. But that was one of those nights where just everything clicked. And a couple weeks later, in this tag gauntlet on Raw, I get paired up with Cesaro randomly, and we had instant chemistry in terms of like he took the ref and I kicked one of the Usos one time, or without talking to each other, we just had this chemistry that sometimes people have, and sometimes they don't have it right away, and you got to work on it. And we just had it right away for some reason. And I remember thinking back after. And I was like, you know what? If you go back and watch that triple threat, we have it in that match too. Like we do a lot of like random double teams to Dolph in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, and I was like,
the chemistry in a way it evolved in that match.
Yeah, and that was the same. The first day I teamed with Cesaro was the same day as the Vince podcast with Steve Austin.
Oh, like grabbing the brass.
Yeah, and Austin asked Vince about Cesaro, and he said,
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I'm driving to SmackDown, and I was like, I was so excited about maybe this idea of now teaming with Cesaro. I thought we could do some really cool stuff. And then I was thinking, wait a minute, if Vince is saying this about him publicly, is this a bad thing?
Yeah.
I was like, ooh. And then I thought a little more as I'm driving, and I said, you know what? Now, like, so many members of our audience are going to want to cheer for Cesaro way more.
Yes. He already at that point he started to have a little bit of a following.
Yep.
They were trying to push him and it would stop.
Yep. And then I don't. So Raw was in like Oklahoma or something, or Tulsa. We were like in Oklahoma and Tulsa, something like that. The next week we had Raw in Detroit, and it was Cesaro and I against the Matadors on Superstars. And when we came out, because we'd come out to Cesaro's music. I like his music a lot better than mine. When we come out to Cesaro's music, the place erupted, and I was like, "All right, I definitely made the right decision."
I think it's cool. Like you guys, we're not forced on the fans. Actually, the fans gradually started to get into where like the people's team in a way.
Yeah.
At what stage you said that the superstar is starting to take off, and what do you think that the fans really got excited about this team?
Man, I don't know. I think they just saw the chemistry. I'd just had that NXT run, which helped me. Cesaro, like you said, he had some start and stop pushes, and where they're getting some momentum behind him, get away from it. Momentum behind him, get away from it. I don't know, man. It felt like it kind of happened out of nowhere, and then we started wrestling. Now we started getting paired up on the live events, so that helped a lot. And we already had chemistry from day one, I felt. So then, now after like 3 weeks, our chemistry's even better. Right. And it was one of those random things. And I believe we were giving like good quality work, and the people saw that, and they wanted to get behind it, and something stood out to the people, like we had chemistry with each other, and then
it caught fire.
Yeah, and it caught chemistry with the audience without. I can't put my finger on exactly why.
Actually, you go way back in 2012 where you had that United States title match
at NXT. Yeah,
that was a cool match where. It wasn't that like too much spots on it.
No.
It was like a basic good wrestling match.
I remember he said to me, "Hey, in this first segment, once we lock up, let's not break contact. Let's just wrestle." Yeah. So it's just on the fly. We're just wrestling. I said, "All right." I said, "I used to be able to do that. I think I can still do it." Right. Yeah, it was fun, man. I loved every time I have a match with him. I had a match with him when I came back from my knee injury in like on a live event. It was one of the first matches I had that really, really pushed me back to getting back into my same shape I was in before. And yeah, he's so awesome, man. He's just so good at that. It was so fun to be his partner because he was putting a lot of the matches together, and I just kind of had to be in the right spot, which for me was easy. I was usually a leader in the ring, so now I was able to kind of take a back seat a little bit. And his ideas are just so good, and his brain just made for wrestling. And that's why, like, you saw on social media 2 weeks ago when he got added to Team Flair, you saw like Corey Graves tweet. Like, Cesaro's in the main event where he should be. Right. And Seth tweeted that. The boys, like what earlier I said, a wrestler's wrestler. But the people also know how good he is. He's not entirely one of those guys, but he's like the boys champion. Right.
I think you guys came up with a lot of cool moves where you had the swing into the drop.
Yeah.
I think another cool spot where you used to stand on
Cesaro's and drop the elbow. That became, I think, my favorite move that we did.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I don't know, and it really, really, really clicked in Philly when we did the Royal Rumble pre-show against the New Day, and New Day is supposed to be good, we're supposed to be bad, and they switched. The audience totally cheered us, booed them, and then the next pay-per-view was Fastlane against the Usos. We had some really good matches with the Usos, I felt. And then we won the tag titles. I was so shocked that we won the tag titles. We've been teaming for 2 months, and it was crazy.
And I remember the fans erupted for your title when...
And I expected that we were going to lose the titles right back at WrestleMania to the Usos. I was cool with it. I just thought, okay, I won the tag titles 5 years ago, and now I won them again. That's cool. That's cool. And
I was in that WrestleMania, and you guys were so over. On WrestleMania, you had that great Fatal 4-Way.
Yeah.
And on Raw.
Yeah, on Raw we did that 8-man tag with the Lucha Dragons. I just was talking with Sin Cara about that yesterday.
And I've seen clips of your European tours as well.
It was so fun.
And
so, man.
You guys were
so we were
the house down.
So we were tired the first day. Everybody's tired that first day. And we just wrestled on SmackDown. And there's a 3-week delay for SmackDown to air wherever we were in Europe that day. So our match on SmackDown was pretty good. So I said to everybody, hey, do you want to do kind of the same match we just did on SmackDown? And then tomorrow we'll change things, but we're all tired. And everyone said, okay, no problem. Then we went out there, and the audience just kept booing New Day and cheering us. Yeah, I would hide behind Natty, and they're still cheering me.
Right.
So now I'm looking around, and I was like, hey, Cesaro, if we switch, and can you blow a comeback on New Day? And he said, yeah. So I asked everybody. I asked Natty. I asked Woods. Always tells this story because he's on the outside. And I asked. He said, "Why'd you ask me? I'm not even in the match." I said, "I want to get everyone's opinion, but before I just did this and went into business for myself." And man, that tour was so fun because we never knew. Like we had a show in Poland, and they're 7 weeks behind TV. There's a 7-week delay, and New Day came out. And they kind of cheered, kind of booed, and then we came out. And they cheered up. It was, and the last 2 days of the tour were in Germany, where, man, Cesaro is the man there. Like I wish I could live in that moment for the rest of my life. It was unbelievable. They're doing like soccer chants for Cesaro. They loved him so much that they were cheering me. It was so awesome, man. It was so unbelievable.
I think you guys played an important part of elevating New Day. And
you know when New Day broke that the tag team title reign record,
I
remember Big E tweeted that. He said this all starts with Kid and Cesaro. He tweeted, and
absolutely,
which is cool because if I hadn't been hurt, I was really looking forward to keep doing stuff with those guys. I thought we had great chemistry with them, especially. We had the match at Extreme Rules where we lost the tag titles to them, and we kind of did like an official like double turn.
Yes. I love in that match where you come up with a spot where you guys were kicking their beat. Who did come up?
Cesaro. That's Cesaro.
He's good,
yeah, man, we did it on the European tour. He's unbelievable. Hey, we got to the back and Vince was so excited. He was so excited, and he said, "Man, we did a double turn." Then the next pay-per-view was the 2 out of 3 falls match. And we got to the back, and Vince again was excited, and he said to, I thought we were in trouble. He said, I'm gonna have to start finding you guys. And I thought, oh, I wonder what we did wrong. And he said, I'm gonna have to start charging you guys. And he was saying it to New Day. He said, because you guys are. He said to New Day, he said, you guys are having too much fun wrestling these guys, and pointed to me and Cesaro. And we all laughed. It was like, it sucks at any point, obviously, to get hurt, especially a career-ending injury, but I'd rather that I got hurt after that good year of work that I did, that more people saw finally this really good work by me.
You was at your hottest.
No doubt. And it sucks to have gotten hurt, but I would prefer that I got hurt then than a year prior. Or even say like another year, but say everything kind of started to go down and fizzle a little bit.
I know what you mean, yeah.
So in a weird way, it was
the perfect ending.
Yeah, it was good that in a weird way. I'm not upset that it happened during the peak of what I was doing in my WWE career.
Since we are winding down, as you know, I think I have almost around 50 followers and on social media, and all of them are old school fans as me. If you don't mind, just since you are a WWE, WWF Wikipedia, I'm going to ask you some random old school questions.
You always ask me these crazy riddles and like trivia that I'll be like, you'll be like, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I remember sitting there thinking, okay, who's Hasan talking about right now?
Because
you'll be like, who pinned Brett this
right.
or something, and I'm like, okay.
Sometimes I would be driving by myself and I would think and remember all those. And I said, let me ask Tyson.
Yeah, man, you come up with some good questions.
So, this is the question. What is it about Macho Man Randy Savage? I think that made him enter to this day. Whenever we walk into wrestling shows or whatever, he was one of the few past wrestlers that we see his T-shirt everywhere. And what was so cool, and what as a wrestler?
I mean, honestly, I know this is gonna sound so stupid. I think everything, the voice,
right?
His voice, his look. His wrestling gear, I love his gear. I love Macho Man's gear. Like all of it, even all the way up until 2000, he kept evolving
right.
and having different looks. Like all of a sudden, he came back and he was all jacked, and he had the necklace and the hair pulled back. He just kept evolving.
That's interesting. You yourself used to like to change your gears all that.
Yeah, because of guys like Macho Man that I just watched change so much.
Remember, I asked you once. Can you think of anyone before or after Macho that has wrestled a style similar to him, like intense, fast, and I can't think of anyone. I don't know how did he get this style.
I don't know. I think at least from what I hear in interviews and stuff, I think he was a super perfectionist when it came to wrestling, and I think he just would sit. A lot of us do, but he just obviously broke it down to a different level. But I think driving in between towns, you can see it in all he did was think wrestling.
Absolutely.
And I mean, even the pairing with Elizabeth was a big reason as to
add some kind of unique element.
Like especially where he's the bad guy and and then he finally turns good, you know what I mean? Like
it's amazing, I think.
But that voice he's imitated all the time today still. People imitate him. Everyone has a Macho Man impersonation,
right? I think on the first years of WrestleMania he was the Mr. WrestleMania.
You know, hey, that's very funny.
He had the Steamboat match on WrestleMania 3. Then he had the tournament where he won the title. He had that Hogan great feud.
Yeah, which that one did like great business. Yes, like great business. Yeah.
And then they had my all-time favorite WrestleMania match, the Warrior retirement match.
That's your all-time favorite?
WrestleMania match.
Really?
Yeah.
Of every WrestleMania match?
Every WrestleMania match.
Wow, why?
I think, as you said, it's like the story between him and Liz started in '85. They had their falling.
Yeah.
Then they get together. I think it's the only WrestleMania match where you had fans actually crying. And what is interesting, if you remember, Macho walking into this match, he was the biggest heel of all time. And there are so many elements about that match where Macho hit the five elbows. Then Warrior hit his finisher on Macho, and Macho he kicked out.
Yeah.
And he started to doubt like destiny.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Then at the end where I think Warrior pinned Macho with just
the knee,
1 feet, where Macho reached the lowest point of a wrestler.
Yeah.
Then he left as a hero. This is just a...
Yeah, I mean, you're right. No. It's so interesting. Like, I would love to know in that moment, going into that, I wonder, was there the idea for that really to be Macho Man's last match at that time?
Yeah, this is interesting.
You know, because he drops the 5 elbows, then Warrior kicks out, then like you said, he gets pinned with a foot.
But he was still pretty young. He didn't reach his 40.
I mean, no, I know. He was so good. Even in WCW, man. Yeah, a lot of his stuff's underrated, especially like at first it just was like kind of normal, like WWE Macho Man, and then Then once the NWO stuff, and
he was cool.
And he's so cool, and he became like where he was crazy.
Right.
Yeah, man, so awesome. And he started having, in my mind, at that time, he was a part of those first matches where they'd like go fighting in the crowd and stuff, right? With DDP.
Right. Yeah. What are some of your favorite ring entrance themes for a wrestler?
Ring entrance themes. So a lot of there's a lot current ones. I like AJ's theme.
Yeah, it's cool.
I like Randy Orton's. Trying to think. Of course, like we're just talking. Yeah, it's awesome. DiBiase, of course, Brett.
Right.
Like we were just talking about, Macho Man. It's iconic.
Right, it is. Hulk, a real American.
Yeah, Warrior.
Right.
I think a lot of those, just when you're a kid, whenever like your starting point of wrestling is, that's the stuff that's gonna really resonate with you. Like I said earlier about like the stages, there's also stages of being a wrestling fan. Like when you're first a kid, this is how I went through it. When you're first a kid, you're watching and just everything's cool.
Yes, absolutely.
Everything's cool. And
the commentary, production, everything.
Yeah, and you're just enthralled by everything, and you want to.
Even if it was a bad match, there has to be something good.
And didn't matter because there'd be a good guy, so you could cheer him and boo the bad guy. And then you get a little older, and you've watched a little bit, and now you start critiquing it.
Right.
And you start picking things apart, and then like for me, then I got into wrestling. Now I'm critiquing it and studying it and trying to enjoy it as a fan. Like it's so many different elements. Like when I watched it when it aired live, Brett versus Steve Austin, the submission match. I loved it. And I didn't watch it again until his DVD came out. And because I really liked it the first time.
Right.
In 1997, and I'd only been wrestling for 2 years at that time. And I didn't want to watch it back in 2005 and pick it apart and think it wasn't good. I was so scared to watch it back because in my mind, it played out a certain way.
That memory.
Yeah.
You want to ruin.
No, and I like press play and I watched it, and I watch that match every couple months. I just watched it again recently.
How good was Brett in 1997?
Unbelievable. Brett overall is already one of the best there's ever been, if not the best, or that's up for debate because it's art and it's subjective. But 1997, Brett, if you take like everybody's best year, 1997 Brett is hard to beat. He's in like the best physical shape of his life.
Right.
His promos are like a 9 or a 10.
Yes. His delivery.
Oh my God.
That promo where he snapped after the steel cage against.
Oh, unbelievable. And the promo where he brings Davey and Owen back together.
I think we were talking about it when we were having coffee. The little thing about him, his body language and his facials. Yeah. When I was saying that Royal Rumble when he was screwed by Austin, the way he grabbed that.
Yeah, man. 96, 97, Brett is so good. So good, man. And his in-ring work was like the best it had ever been.
Absolutely.
It was unbelievable. So at that time, I'm 17 years old. And my birthday's in July too. My birthday's like 9 days after Brett's. And he turned 40. And I turned 17. And then I was like, he's doing his best work right now at 40 years old. I was like,
so it gave you.
Yeah, I was like, man, I have like a lot of time to get pretty good at this stuff. A fan once sent me a collection of DVDs of every Heart Foundation segment.
Wow.
From the 97 Heart Foundation, from the point of Brett coming in during the Owen Davey European title match.
Right.
And I would watch it every morning, getting ready for like when we're on the road, getting ready to go to the gym and go to TV. I would watch as I'm getting ready, and like, man, those
it gives you a sense of energy.
Yeah, those segments are awesome, man. Like those. Obviously, I'm biased because I was around for that time, but that's my favorite time for sure. And the rise of Steve Austin on these DVDs. that this fan gave me, you see the rise of Steve Austin too, because now fans start
so dynamic.
Fans start cheering him.
Yeah.
Like there obviously have been, but off the top of my head, I don't know of a. I know I'm so wrong, but like I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of other double turns before Bret and Steve Austin at WrestleMania.
Like during a match?
Yeah.
Through a match, I think Savage and Warrior, but they did it differently.
Yeah, but Warrior doesn't turn to a heel, right? And then
no, it wasn't.
And same with like when Bad News kicked Bret and that turned him babyface, but Bad News like was already a heel. And that match, man.
I think one of the underrated matches, it was the month earlier, the Final Four.
Oh yeah.
It was Vader, Taker, Bret, and Austin.
Yeah, it was
so
like a cool fight, right?
Yeah, it was.
It had like this fight feel.
Yeah.
That's what, you know, when Bret, I would just talk to him about that submission match. Like he compares it to like a UFC fight.
Yes.
Yeah, like that. It has that violence to it, and that, except that they're not actually knocking each other out. I love that match. But on these DVDs, you saw the rise of Steve Austin, and like at one point, like he comes running out to attack the Hart Foundation, and the camera's like shaking. And like the week before, I saw him come out, and it's like a pretty good reaction. The week before that, it's a good reaction. You just saw this growth of Steve Austin on these DVDs, as well as the Hart Foundation. It was so awesome.
I think it was Steve's hottest year as well.
Yeah.
When it comes as an in-ring performer, I think he had the great Shawn match at King of the Ring.
I have to watch that match back. I haven't watched it in a long time.
You know what is a great match? It was Davey and Owen against
Shawn and Steve.
Shawn and Steve.
The one where Davey and Owen lose the tag titles.
Yes.
Yeah, I have to same thing. I have to watch that match back. I remember it at the time.
Do you think there are similarity between the team of Davey and Owen and you and Cesaro? I feel there is little.
Yeah, there were for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It gave me that feeling.
I remember Cody saying that we were like the new Steiners because we were like suplexing guys, and
it's funny. I was going to ask you how good is the Steiner and Awesome?
Oh man, Steiners?
Yes, the Steiner brothers.
I love them.
I love them.
Love the Steiner brothers, man.
Remember when they were just squashing Joe Bartow?
Oh, crazy. I remember when they came in, I knew of them from WCW, I'd heard them, or maybe I saw a couple of WCW Saturday nights, and then when they came to WWF, I was so excited. I was so excited.
Amazing.
I love them.
What are some of the coolest heels of all time?
What do you mean, like in terms of like
guys?
But do you
just an overall like?
Do you mean like great heels, or do you mean like heels that are like cool that people like?
Like I would say, great heels that you like, or some of your favorite heels.
Brock Lesnar, definitely up there. Great heel. 97 Bret.
Right.
That whole Hart Foundation.
Yeah.
Vince.
Yeah, Vince, he was an all-time great.
Yeah, what a great heel, man.
A lot of people say he's the greatest heel of all time.
He might be.
Yeah.
He might be. And the reason why he is because that character, the Mr. McMahon character, thinks he's a good guy.
Right.
He thinks he's doing the right thing for his company.
Right. Exactly.
But he's not. He's screwing the biggest star, which is Steve Austin.
Right.
Which is so funny. Like that's all Bret. That's not all, but that's so much of that is Bret's doing too. The screw job happened.
Yeah,
the Mr. McMahon character really paved the way for that. You know, I remember one time Bret told me, "It's too bad everything went down the way it went down," because he said, "Man, like they could have made a lot of really good money with like."
Yeah.
Bret and Steve. Again, they only had a couple matches, pay-per-view matches, you know. And Bret even told me like an idea of like eventually, you know, like him and Shawn are a tag team,
right.
Trying to take out Steve Austin. And like,
okay, I'm not sure if the screw job didn't happen with like the boom of the.
I agree. Like it's so hard to say. It's so.
On it.
I know.
How about some of the some of my favorite heels in the 80s? recruit Mr. Perfect.
Oh yeah,
Ted
awesome,
DiBiase,
awesome. Ted DiBiase, yep, for sure, 100%.
I think what I like about those, they never were cheered. So a lot of heels, they are so good, but they eventually turned into people who cheer them. Roddy Piper.
Yeah, I was just about to say Roddy Piper.
Savage, but those three, they maintained that heat.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Trying to think. I thought, especially there was a period, I thought Edge was an awesome heel.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He was super hated. There's a trying to think. Yeah, man, like those guys in the 80s, again, it's the same thing. Like I was a kid, so I'm first getting into it. So like those heels really stick out to me. Like Owen was the first heel that I really liked.
Yes.
But that's also because I knew, maybe I'm biased to it because I knew him, but I remember when he turned heel, I was so excited. I don't know why. And it was like the start of me, I'm 13 at the time, turning 14. So it's the start of me starting to like bad guys more because I also really like Shawn as a heel. Shawn as a heel's up there too.
It's good, yeah. Especially in the ring, he would like pump like crazy.
Oh,
like
yeah.
A pink ball for everybody.
Yeah, for everybody, man.
It made the other guys look really awesome.
Unbelievable.
It has been, I think, we've done this interview over starting from 5 and now we are 2 a.m.
Yeah, we put in some time.
It was really when it has to be that I was involved in several wrestling projects. This has to be my favorite.
Oh, I'm happy.
The time went by so fast.
So fast, man. It was funny with like that little timer for the every time it goes off, I was like, really? That's another half an hour?
Right. What's funny that we went to have coffee and other stuff, and a lot of we continued our conversation
right where it left off, right on me versus Harry on Superstars in Philadelphia.
Thank you very much.
No, Hasan, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
في شهر في سنة تهدى الجراح وتنام وعمر جرحي